Hello and welcome everyone to the NACL promotion tournament. We are currently having our teams scrap it out to see who's going to get the 2025 spring. My name is Eric Desworks Beltran. Joining me on the desk, it is Matthew Cubby Samuelson. How you doing today, man? Looking fantastic.
Thanks, you as well, Desworks. And honestly, I'm really excited. I know it's all OQ teams. I don't have the chance to cover these teams anymore. It's where I started, and we still have a lot of players competing that I'm familiar with from my days covering OQs and NACL. So really excited to be on the cast with you today and cover these four teams.
Yeah, you know, it's always a lot of fun, especially coming into these promotion tournaments to see what the new faces are going to be in our next split of NACL. It's always a very fun ride because you never know whose story's ending, whose story's beginning. It's a whole mix right there. Let's pull up the bracket so we can see how these stories have been unfolding thus far throughout our promotion tournament.
Yeah, as you can see, big matches yesterday. I had the full 6 games on the slate. The 2 NACL teams were able to take down the OQ team, so guaranteed to have a returner to the league. We'll figure out who that is tomorrow. But today, we have the first round flipped around, as we're going to have 2 best-of-3s to decide who moves on to get a chance to continue to play for that coveted NACL slot. And then we're going to see who goes home and whose split ends until this upcoming January.
All right, Cubby, I just got to ask, though, man. Got some new faces here. Are there any teams that are kind of popping out to you, kind of standing out?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. So I don't catch all the OQs. I catch mostly top 8, so I'm by no means an expert, and oftentimes I'll default and talk to everyone that is covering it.
A lot of League of Legends cover, man.
Yeah, so like talking with some of the casters like Hawk, Grapes, Flax, they were all so excited about the Ducky Getters and how they played League. And I watched their series against Lotus and CCG, and I'm like, man, these guys have a crazy, like, unique read about the game. And I actually think, like, the baseline for their strategy and where they start is pretty good. So they've been a real joy to watch, and I'm excited to see them in the second series today.
To quote Kangas, who is going to match the freak of the Duckies? Let's go ahead and pull up the schedule for what we have going on today. It is that lower bracket showdown that we had seen earlier on the bracket. So Lotus versus Dragoons Goons will be the first match of the day, followed up by Polestar taking on the Ducky Getters.
Yeah, and again, that first round inverse, just given how the bracket has gone. And I know, like, talking about the Ducky Getters, obviously a very exciting team, but the pretty much favorite, and one of the favorites to take down one of the NACL squads has been Dragoons Goons, who did fall yesterday to a reinvigorated AoE. And I gotta say, I really haven't seen the hype for Dragoons Goons yet in this tournament, so looking for a bit more out of them today, because frankly, if you asked me going into the tournament who was going to get through, I would have had Dragoons Goons as well, but they haven't played like that so far, so really hoping they can make their mark against Lotus as they have to move on in the lower bracket, and they can continue to just pick up games.
Yeah, I heard a lot of hype onto them as well, but after that match with AoE, I do have a lot of questions, and honestly, they can only be answered as they play out this game, because that's going to be our first match of the day. It's going to be Lotus versus Dragoon. Dragoons Goons, I should say the whole name. It's just not Dragoon by himself. It's not a 1v5. Yeah. But, to that regard, there's a lot of familiar faces on these teams. I mean, there's only 2 names that I haven't seen before. That's Sushi and... Is it Sushi or Sushi?
It's Sushi and Mixture, as we're going to take a look at the Lotus roster. I got to say, like going through some of the tape, I got the chance to work with Sushi a bit in the Running the Rift Combine this past offseason. It was really, like, there to learn, was a really positive person to work with. Same with the Supernova Combine as well. But when it comes to this bot lane, I know a lot of the OQ casters have been really excited about Sushi. I've actually been much more excited about Mixture. I think Mixture has a lot of game at support, and I know that they ended up dropping their first series, but I do think Mixture had some decent looks, even being put on something like a Mumu support, which was a flex pick to make sure that Dardoch could play the Zyra. They did drop that game, but I do still think we saw some very positive looks from Mixture and this team.
And you can't forget about the top half of this map with Porsche, Dardoch, and Robbie Bob, all part of that UST roster that won CLOL back in 2023. Even Porsche and Robbie have it for 2022 as well. Their opponents on the Rift will be Dragoons Goons. Lots of familiar names here, especially Dragoon himself, who is kind of the showpiece of the team name, I would suppose. I'm surprised we didn't go with the Team Tony Top route of just putting his face as the logo, but a lot of potential on this squad. You know, I look over towards Array, who's been constantly performing well. go over to the roster of Dragoons Goons and pull that up so we can see their beautiful faces as we do this breakdown.
Yeah, it's interesting. So with Lotus, of course, we do have that trio of the UST champions in Porsche, Dardoch, and Robbie Bob. And it's funny, the bot lane of Dragoons Goons, 2 UST alums themselves in Array and Daption. Daption being on that championship squad. So, yeah, definitely a little bit of a friendly rivalry that we have between these two teams and players. So excited to see us dive into this roster today. And I gotta say, Dragoons Goons, it is a high-quality name. I get wanting to say Goons twice, but I feel like we missed out on the real opportunity for the Dragoon squad. And honestly, sometimes it does feel like that is what this team does, as there is a lot of activity around the map, and especially later on around Dragoon. We have seen this team struggle a little bit in the laning phase, but when they group up as 5 and fight, everyone's on the same page, which frankly was a trait that Dragoon and Kisno had in their time with Lit Esports when they were in NACL. We did see them really struggle in early game and just sometimes get blown out, never really get into it. When that team was able to get into the game, we actually saw them take some really good fights and angles, which has continued with this squad.
And you do have to keep in mind that the way the squad has been performing, of course, we have the NACL qualifiers that are going on. Dragoons Goons won the first one and won the second one to be what is essentially the first seed coming out from the qualifiers to get here. So they did have great performances. You know, it's nothing that you can really scoff at. But again, once we did hit that bracket, I do have a lot of questions that are still left over from that AoE game.
Yeah, again, we didn't really see this team get off to the races in lane, but still, honestly, some familiar faces. I know that we mentioned Dragoon and Kisno being in challengers their time on Lit. We did see Array compete with Supernova in spring. I remember him from his time with Golden Guardians, where I actually felt like him and Prismal were a really strong bot lane, as we will see Prismal later today.
Okay, and speaking of some of the action that we've had unfolding so far, let's go ahead and pull a clip. It was a match between the Ducky Getters and Dragoons Goons, and this is where we're going to highlight Array in this clip.
Yeah, of course, OQ's, all this action has been going alongside NACL throughout the entire season, and we are going to see Array honestly putting together some nice fights here on the Ezreal, as we do see a couple favorites. One of the things that we are going to expect to see, at least you know, on the side of Ducky Getters, is those Enchantress supports later on today from Hiccup, as it is a specialty, but really a highlight for this Dragoons Goon squad. I did talk about, you know, Dragoon and kind of ganging up around him to make sure that he is set up for success, but Array, much like the role that he played with Golden Guardians when he was in Challengers, he is the janitor on this team playing cleanup, and his positioning always really solid, being front to back. You can always have faith in Array to carry through team fights.
As Sean and Tonin would say, when there's a Will, there is Array. And fun fact, Will is not in this. He's going to be in the second series of the day, but nonetheless, it's always great to see what Array can do. Also had some time substituting in on the LCS stage, so he does have experience over there when it comes to the full ecosystem of the Golden Guardians. But we are still getting ready for this next match coming up. Any closing thoughts before we head into it, Gobi?
No, I'm excited. I really feel like Dragoons Goons are kind of the favorite here. And I just want to see if they can reach the mantle of their play that we expect out of them. Because, again, this was a team, despite coming from OQs, they were the top dogs coming in. And, like, a lot of people were looking at this team like, hey, like, we expect them out of all the squads to be the ones that can really push the Challengers team and try and qualify. We haven't really seen that yet from Dragoons Goons. So I want to see them reach that mantle of play, put away Lotus, and see if they can move on. And on the Lotus side, like, I know it sounds like I'm Dragoons Goons favored. I do think the play I've seen out of both these teams, like, I have a little bit more faith in Dragoons Goons, but I've seen Lotus really indexing heavily into early game, and they just haven't played clean enough to really execute it, which was an issue in their first series they had against the Ducky Getters. So hoping that we see things, you know, get a little bit stronger from them.
All right, so our first match of the day, Lotus versus Dragoons Goons. Now, a reminder, this is going to be a lower bracket match, which means elimination is now on the line. If you fall here, you are out of the promotion tournament. If you do win, you get to continue, but it means you still got to win quite a few series from the lower bracket to even qualify to get in. So it is going to be a very long road as we head into game number 1.
Yeah, and of course we are in that full fearless format, which if you were watching this channel, you've been used to for the entire year. Both OQs and NACL had that. So we do see a lot of target bans coming out and a first pick Smolder. So really curious what they end up pairing that with. They have the options for something like an Ivern or a Maokai to create some space for the Smolder. And it does kind of put Dragoon's Goons in the pocket of, hey, we have to actually play more early games. So I know I was talking about the identities of these teams coming in. Like we saw Lotus again in that first series against Ducky Getters really indexing towards the early game. If you first pick Smolder, you're saying, hey, if this goes late, we win. So really putting the onus on Dragoon's Goons to have a much stronger early game. I say that. They have taken Maokai Triss, which has a lot of scaling involved as well.
This is actually some scary picks coming out of Dragoon's Goons as a whole. I mean, the level of Wombo combo you have with the first two picks coming in, both Maokai and Misfortune, it means team fights, zone control, they're going to be pretty heavily in the favor of Dragoon's Goons, as well as the strong laning that you do have with that Tristana. Next lock-in, speeding right over to it. We're getting the Alistair build that front line.
These teams are insanely familiar with each other as Porsche gets his hands on his GP. Curious what the answer is for Dragoon. I feel like this does counter quite a bit of his champion pool. But wow, that's the fastest draft I think I've ever seen on this channel, Deserex. We ripped through that one as we end up having, I think, a lot of scaling in the Maokai and Tristana, whereas MF is kind of going to be the bridge to get us there for Dragoon's Goons. Then on Lotus, you have that Ivern Smolder identity and Jhin to really keep range. So I want to see if Lotus can hold their range and see when they step up how careful they are. Because GP Smolder Jhin, that can buy a lot of space for the Smolder to function. So really think that when Dragoon's Goons do take the engages, they have to be careful. Because if they don't have a clean one, the ability for Lotus to kite them out, reset the fights, and just play off Smolder Qs, I think really high.
And not just that, but the scaling. I mean, it's a Gangplank, it's a Smolder, it's a Jhin. All of these suddenly puts a kind of ticking time bomb on how Dragoon's Goons have to work to try and stop this from really coming online and just taking over the matches with the scaling that we have. As we do get ready for this next game, I mean, Dragoon's Goons, again, they are the more favorite one to come in here. They did win both of the qualifiers coming into this, but I was talking about it earlier, and it's a lot of familiar names that we've seen across multiple splits. I mean, Robbie Bob, for example, we saw him subbing in back on Evil Geniuses. Did have pretty an okay performance, I would say, when they had a more distinguished identity. But I asked him about what it would meant to really like come back into here, and for a lot of the players, it's the same thing. They want to give it all for both their teammates. They feel like they deserve play in the NACL, and they want to get back to that standard once again.
I mean, all these guys are playing for the love of the game at this point, which I got to respect. And I think it's kind of funny. Like, we're sitting in a lobby with 4 collegiate champions, right, from UST. That's something that Dragonsteel hasn't even been able to accomplish themselves with the roster they have and the core. And they're our top dogs in NACL. So I really do think it speaks to the level of play that we have from top to bottom in this game. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. A lot of players that we are familiar with going in. And I actually know, like, while we're on the Robbie Bob topic, Eric, we have a little bit of time before we get into the game itself after draft. But you talked to Robbie Bob before this, and he had some really interesting thoughts, actually, in a very familiar matchup for him, which has been Sudsy.
Yeah, Robbie Bob and Sudsy, they go way back. They've been head-to-head both on the Rift and in tryouts where they're competing for the exact same role and the exact same team. Robbie Bob talked a lot about how he does respect Sudsy, and how Sudsy has gotten the better of a lot of their exchanges, but now he has said, as a direct quote, "I'm definitely not the kid getting bullied by him anymore." He feels like this time it's going to be a good matchup.
I do love that quote. It's like one of the stories we really had for Robbie Bob was his growth after his time that he spent with Evil Geniuses being a sub in the mid lane and taking that to UST, where he ended up going for that back-to-back champions, right? Yeah. So I think that Robbie Bob, I mean, even though they didn't win this past year too, he was massive for his team in some of those series. And C-Law, as I was co-streaming that one, was very fun. So excited to see Robbie Bob go against Sudsy. A mid laner I actually think pretty highly of too. And curious to see how hard this Triss scales. We haven't seen as much Tristana since the changes that were made, making her Q cost mana and lowering that base attack speed. So I'm honestly unsure if Triss can outscale as the Smolder. Just given, you know, Smolder Qs, you get the true damage burn, always very nice. Whereas Triss, you get that range and those resets. And on top of the bus shot, you're just ever so safe. So interested to see how the scaling works between those two. I do favor the scaling of Lotus, pretty much given the GP in the top side, and this Jhin to really keep everyone at bay. So we'll see if Dragoon's Goons can have a stronger laning phase get a lead and really snowball this one through.
Seems the audience agrees with you for the most part. 60% going in favor of the Goons. Let us know in Twitch chat who you are rooting for. Be Lotus or will it be Dragoons? Goons. And Dragoons favorite coming into this one. First place in both of the qualifiers. This is an elimination match that has to be constantly reminded because your tournament life, your chance to get into NACL is at stake.
I love how we even see Daption there in that player photo, having the Fear jerseys. He was on that squad in spring this past year. Thought Daption played actually a really respectable split. It was definitely someone that I actually had a shout out for being considered for most improved, even though we ended up giving that award to Scary Jerry, which was a very easy pick for us as a broadcast. Okay, at the moment, important to note, we have junglers pathing, looks like Kizno going bot to top, whereas Dardoch is clearing up his top side camps and will be working his way actually towards this top lane, so not going for the bot side camps quite yet.
He's walking straight over towards that lane. Health bars are low both ways. Porsche getting that Q in. Dragoon's chugging away to make sure he's not going to be the first one to fall. And we don't have those memes going on about Dragoon getting solo killed.
Yeah, Dragoon, though, ended up missing that Q. And you can see Porsche, as long as he gets these auto attacks off onto the Cassante itself, that burn from the Gangplank passive is significant. Of course, Porsche playing a specialty champ of his. Very, very strong Gangplank player in this top lane. Has been known for this pick pretty much his entire career.
Focus on the top side coming out from Kizno. Dragoon looking to do some work, and Porsche is too far forward. Kizno has his number, but it's turned around by Porsche in the nick of time. Dragoon will crumble. Now Porsche playing the long con will eventually crumble to the tree. A 1-for-1 exchange as Porsche is able to clutch.
I mean, pretty good from Porsche. That wave is pushing back towards him, so he's going to be able to get most of it. And importantly, GP starting with that Sheen is Porsche picked up the kill. Dragoon did not, so item advantage and a checkpoint hit for Porsche in the top side will be very big for him as this lane phase continues. Get a second look. The big thing here is the contested barrel goes to the side of Porsche, so he gets that passive back up, and you can see the burn is what actually nets the kill against the Cassante.
Yeah, he went after that barrel, and he got popped for it. So, excellent situation for Porsche to try and capitalize, especially getting that kill lead that you were mentioning just a second ago, Cubby. He will base, he will come back, and now he has a Sheen.
Really, really big for this matchup, and Kizno did not go for that top crab. So Kizno going to cycle out some of the camps that he cleared out first, but going to be a little bit behind in the clear, especially if Ivern finds the top crab himself, but skipping over that crab at the moment. Dardoch has other sights set for himself. It looks to be the top lane. There is a lane brush ward from Dragoon. I'm not sure if Porsche saw that or pinged it. I've been staring at the minimap as Ivern has made his way up here. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or the read. Looks like Dardoch's going to retreat and head back to this jungle. So no play there, but I do appreciate the look because there's been a lot of action in this top lane, especially now that both top laners are missing that flash.
A lot of focus onto this top lane. I mean, and especially around this time, if you are able to take them down, teleports down, you'd be forced to walk to lane, miss out on a lot of CS. Focus down into the bottom lane, root up. Daption has to flash away to get to safety. Now that leaves Array by himself, but too low are the health bars of Lotus.
Honestly, okay for Array and the Goons bot lane. I cannot believe I just said that, but, you know, that's technically the proper thing to do. I get a pass. Shout out to Dragoon for naming his team this. Let us have fun here in the broadcast. You get the Goons and the Duckies, man. What a day.
Incredible. You gotta love tier 3 and tier 2, but here we go, all out right into the wall, pulls Porsche away, and even with the kills traded earlier, Dragoon doesn't care. He'll still get the solo.
Really tough now for Porsche. That wave is frozen on him. It looks like Dragoon is going to break it, so we can get this all the way in order to get him a reset. But that happens just as Grub spawns. No ult, no TP for Porsche, and Kizno to start the Grubs himself. Dardoch spotted by the sapling. Going to be at least one security here. Just going to imagine. Yeah, he's going to smite that one away.
You can feel the pressure going on to Porsche. No teleport, has to
Dardoch's going to smite himself, though.
Loss, which means Kizno, Dardoch don't really have too much backup. Sudsy does step up. Dardoch smites one in favor of Lotus. Sudsy, and he has the rocket jump. He's in no real danger. With 2 Grubs going over to Dragoon's Greens.
All right, 2-for-1 split. Not bad. Camps to be cleaned up here for both Kisno and Dardox, whose camps are on the bot side, but at least the Raptors have been prepped. So it's going to hang around, make sure this crab goes to himself, and go from there. See what happens with the Dragon, though, because since Dardox did go for the contest, this Dragon has the opportunity to go over to Dragoon's Goons as well, which would make sense, given we can see Array really pressuring this bot lane. Appreciate how he's trying to push his advantage on this BF sword, even going up against the Swifties of Sushi with that MF passive. You can sometimes just keep pace. So I actually saw Array get a nice little trade-off there, and I think this Dragon pressure should be looked at by Kisno after he gets back down here and tries to reset after this is clear. But I lied. No flash top. Oh, okay. No, we recall. Yep, okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good, Deserex. We're keeping up. Gotta get those objectives.
Going down in the bottom lane because there might be an opportunity for a lane gank over there. Nah, gonna back off. We're focusing back into the top lane. This is where all the action is. For all the years that top lane has been an island that we ignore, we're making up for it right now, Cody.
It's Dragoon, man. The Goon squad is about him. It's his goons. Goons must come to his lane.
Enough, and look at that. Bobby Bob taking a good burst of damage right there. Sudsy shoving in the wave. We'll have some time, potentially, especially if Robbie Bobby can't stick around much longer to look to take some plates. All the meanwhile, Kisno is showing up on Dragon, has the pool.
Yeah, and not surprised to see this go over, just given MF is such a strong laner, especially like those item checkpoints that you hit are so oppressive. Like you have the option to go early Vamps after to sustain poor matchups and make sure that you're able to trade up, or you can go BF sword and just hit like a truck if you are able to get in range between 80 you get from a BF sword and of course MF passive. So, or yeah, W passive, I believe. So, really nice use of everything that the Goons drafted here to make sure that they were able to secure the Dragon here in the bot side.
Lots of priority coming down into that bottom lane. Why not utilize it? Why not start getting yourself some neutrals? Kisno will grab the first Infernal Drake of the game. It does give you some combat stats early on, even if the percentage isn't the most. Always helpful to get something. Priority for Lotus is still going to be towards that top side. Now got to look at Sudsy, who's hopping on to Robbie Bob. This is the aggression he keeps putting on to make sure that Robbie Bob's going to be pushed away from this tower. Minion wave.
Yeah, again, this matchup actually going pretty well for Sudsy. I am curious to see what he ends up building first. As again, I haven't seen a ton of Tristana. I have heard, though, of Essence Reaver Tristana being kind of the new build, because with the Q now costing mana, the Essence Reaver just makes sure that you're always going to have mana available to make sure that you can function as Trist. So that might actually be the angle, as we do see, despite early kills going Dragoon's way, Porsche able to get things going here in the top lane. Has really been taking it to Dragoon on at least this portion before base. That's the word I was looking for, Deserex.
We're both having our struggles today, Cody. It's all right.
Oh, man.
The coffee
all
will
right.
kick in eventually.
It's only up
perfectly
from here.
fine after that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, fortunately for Dragoon, given the fact that he was bullied around this time, works out no problem. It's a recall timer anyway. Dragoon will use his teleport to get back in the lane, make sure he catches that wave. Porsche, however, is going to walk back to lane, so there will be a TP advantage for Lotus.
I do want to say, Dardoch is spotted bot, and this is the point of the matchup where I would love to see Kisno or Sudsy get involved topside, because Dragoon's up. He is beating the matchup at this point, which is great to see from Dragoon.
Oh,
Sudsy!
Sudsy! You want to talk about what we were saying earlier, Cubby? I mean, Robbie Bobby. Sudsy will get dropped regardless. We're still going all over the place.
You gotta dive top now. Like, what I was gonna talk about with this top lane matchup is that Dragoon is on Iceborne. So, oh, he missed it just barely. Was not able to get Porsche over the wall. That's gonna hurt. But this is a spike where Dragoon can actually pressure and force this topside matchup. I would have loved to see a dive there from Kisno when the GP ult was down before he actually went for these grubs, because this is the one point of the matchup where you can somewhat win as Kasante. Afterwards, GP can really get the scaling going. So I think this is a bit of a missed opportunity. Kisno going for the grubs. Yes, it will be an objective secured for the Goons, but I think that he would have been able to hit the top side and find the grubs. Meanwhile, I'm showing top side.
Yeah, it's going to mean the Alistair ultimate's going to be popped to try and negate a lot of that damage. You can see it's working, it's magic, but the problem is you're running low on resources, you're running low on the health bar. Bullet time comes out to try and prolong, to try and delay the death adaption. It's still going to happen, man, as Lotus take the kill.
Yeah, Lotus were trying to get that one over to Sushi. Do respect them trying for that, but the result ends up being the same as Robbie Bob. This is going to be an aggressive entrance to lane. Sudsy.
Careful right now. Sudsy's focus is onto the plates. Robbie Bob trying to push him right on off. Good Sudsy has picked up a slight CS lead.
It's a collector, Tristana?
Pressure as well, yeah.
I don't like
Look
that.
for that execution, man.
Yeah, I don't like that one very much. That's fine. I like to play my Tristana scaling style. As looks like we're gonna get a replay. And anything interesting happen here? Flash burn maybe? Oh, is this just solo kill?
This is the solo kill. This is solo kill. Yeah.
Yeah, well played by Sudsy. I do appreciate the R buffer and then the flash to make sure he can get another auto attack off. I do think that was the only way he was going to get the auto and R off. Meanwhile, picture in picture, Robbie Bob picking one back up for himself. Daption to wall, ends up falling.
Robbie Bob finds his vengeance, but it's going to be on to Daption. I think that counts as vengeance, right? Daption dropped your trophy, man.
I forgot about that. Oh, no. Oh. Good
That's the first thing I always remember every time I think of Daption, man. That moment, to me, is iconic in Seawall.
It is, for all right and wrong reasons. Great. Good. I gotta say, I think all eyes right now on the second dragon coming up. We want to see if Dragoon's Goons can secure this one safely again. Still have a pretty big item advantage on the MF, who has completed that BT, and Array can just walk up, really push Lotus's bot lane around, and then heal back up. So would love to see them use this to make sure the second dragon goes over to them on time. As I will say, setting up this matchup, Deserex, we did talk about wanting to see Dragoon's Goons put together a better early game. They've done that so far.
They definitely have.
Part of it dragon
is the focus you see going down in the bottom lane right now, where Array has held a lot of control. And this is allowed for situations like you mentioned, Kizno, really able to just step up and grab that dragon.
Yeah, bot lane using bullet time to force Sushi and Mixture off. And will be the second Drake picked up for Dragoon's Goons at a decent timer. As so far, I wanted to see a better early game from Dragoon's Goons. I feel like that they've hit the mark on that.
A lot of fighting over in this top lane. See right now, Porsche Dragoon really swinging it out. And we start to focus on what's going on in the bottom lane. There's a lot of vision coming out for Dragoon's Goons on this bottom side, and they're still going to look for the fight. It's a nice pick coming out from Mixture, who's able to get that crowd control onto Array. Array has to go on retreat. Same thing with Daption, but backup is coming. Here comes Sudsy. Not in time. Array will pay the price. Now Mixture looking to get on out of here. Curtain call opens up. Daption will sidestep on out of it. Now he has to wait for that teleport, wait for the curtain call to time out. Teleport does come through. Mom will not take him out. Now Dragoon's Goons, a fight in the bottom lane. They lose Array, they get Mixture.
Yeah, and Array burned both sums there. It was kind of poor from him. Ended up flashing while the bouncing grenade was in midair, followed him to his death. Well played by Sushi and Mixture. They were able to catch Adaption and Array while they were somewhat under turret, and then with the help of the Gangplank ultimate coming from the top lane, actually they were able to get the chase on. So I like that play from Lotus. And again, like one of the things I wanted to see from Lotus in this matchup was a little bit more of a disciplined early game. I know that we've seen Dragoon's Goons get off to a small lead, but having it be an even game and a lot of scaling in Lotus's hands, I don't think Lotus has played it bad by any means. And seeing that team cohesion with Porsche contributing to that bot lane fight, really nice from them.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the gold lead itself. It's net neutral. So it means that Lotus are at least able to keep up with what's going on in the game so far. Seems the next focus for Dragoon's Goons will be over by this Rift Herald. Lotus are sending some members into this direction. Comes Mixture and Dardoch eating as Rift Herald is pulled.
Robbie Bob doesn't have TP and just finished getting bot lane in. Sudsy does have TP available, so I think that's enough for Lotus to drop this one. As Mixture is going to find Daption and will be no contest on this Rift Herald. I think this is the right call from Lotus. They can still be relatively happy with the gold that they picked up from that last play on the bot lane. I think with Cannon Barrage being down, no Daisy, no Mom, no TP for Robbie Bob. That's just the right call. They took the play in the last timer, so I have to give up the Rift Herald to Dragoon's Goons on this timer.
This will give Dragoon Goons at least some early econ. I mean, drop the Rift Herald, you got 5 grubs on top of that, so power should be dead to rights as long as they do place it into the right location. speaking of, you do have some alone time with Robbie Bob over in the bottom lane. Alone time with Array in the mid lane. You can't be leaving this misfortune by herself. Sushi will take it down.
I mean, that's kind of on Array, though. Like, you are in that lane alone, and your team, like, Kisno's coming off a reset. There's just no reason for you to put yourself in that scenario where you actually get taken down by Leona. So I think that's a pretty big oopsie from Array, who did drop his sums in that fight bot side, and now get picked mid. And that's time for Lotus again. We value time for the Lotus composition, Deserux, as Smolder. That stat count for Robbie Bob, 156 at this point. We haven't really checked in on that yet. I'd say he's a little bit behind where you want to be, but if he's able to get it up by that 4th dragon, that is really what's going to matter for Lotus. That's a huge spike for Smolder, and it feels like they're pretty much guaranteed to hit that timer given this 3rd dragon spawning late. So I do think that Dragoon's Goons have to really find a way to drive home their advantage between this Rift Herald and this 3rd dragon before the Lotus comp gets more online. And I don't, like, if I'm Lotus, I just don't want to give them those opportunities. You have a ton of wave clear on your team. Just kind of lean on that and hold strong until Smolder hits the stacks, and you're going to be chilling.
Dude, how long has Sudsy been just chilling out in that brush? Kind of waiting for an angle for Robbie Bob to step up to the wave that was by itself. Robbie Bob kind of smelled something was in there, so smarter right there. But there you see it. Sudsy is quick to jump onto the Smolder, doesn't want the Smolder farming, trying to slow down the stacks, so maybe have a fighting chance once we get towards that 4th Drake.
Moment, though, we have our 3rd Drake spawning in 40 seconds. Dragoon's Goons have control over this bot side. Well, no summoner or no flash on Array. Besides that, everything available to Dragoon's Goons. As we see Porsche actually complete the first pen item. I think that's going to be really nice for Gangplank. I appreciate the Zeeks coming out from Dragoon on the Cassante. When you pop R, you are in range to apply that slow and damage, which can really help you keep up. So I do appreciate that coming out of Dragoon. We'll see if that ends up being big for this fight. But Porsche being on those 2 items, those are more expensive. So again, he is ahead of the pace. And this Rift Herald denied from Lotus. That hurts a bit, as with the dragon spawning, you got to respond in the mid wave, and this kind of gives Lotus the opportunity to at least poke their nose in a little bit, push around.
Feels like there's a lot of small errors coming out from Dragoon's Goons. That was definitely one of them right there, the misplacement of the Rift Herald. Now Lotus, they don't have the first track into the river. They're fighting into Dragoon's Goons, and that can be very dangerous. There's a Maokai, there's an Alistair, there's a lot of crowd control that will stop you and set up for a bullet time.
I gotta say, too, I don't really love what Kisno's gone for this game.
That bullet time does come out, so Lookalar's going to land on it, cleansed out right away, and now Mixture looking to bail. Mom comes down, Daption backing off as the cannon barrage rains down onto him. Zenith Blade finds its mark, it's onto Kisno. Mixture looking for more, takes the jungler, and now Lotus are the ones who will take the team fight win and control over the dragon.
Yeah, my point about Kisno is going to be I don't love what he's gone for because he's not going to be tanky. And you can see between the Redemption, the Iron Shields, you can kind of sustain this sapling damage coming from the Maokai and turn things around rather easily. So Kisno, again, being a very small front line against this high damage composition for Lotus, not having access to armor yet in these builds, I think, is really hurting the Goons at this point of the game. So a nice fight from Lotus as we're going to take another look. It's just kind of, you know, poking and prodding going around, but this really kicks off of Daisy. Mixture with a nice follow-up finds the cancel onto Array, and Mixture was able to get back the control ward and get out. As once the Redemption hits, this fight's completely reset, and Mixture, knowing that they have the health bar advantage, felt confident enough to go back in, had the shielding of the Ivern, and was able to find a kill on the Kisno, which ended up securing them that dragon. So this game state for Lotus really nice coming out of that play.
Very nice to see that play coming out from Mixture again. A new face that we really haven't seen that much, has only played in the qualifiers, but to make plays like that, especially landing that Zenith Blade, taking out the jungler, that's what we want to see from a lot of our new players.
I mean, when I went through the tape of Mixture, I was like, wow, this guy should be an NACL support. Like, I actually really want to see this guy in the league this upcoming split. And it's plays like that, like just decent game sense, right? And I think Mixture used his tools really well in that fight to make sure it was set up for Lotus' success. As turning the map, we see a trade mid-outer for bot-outer with some gold going over to Sudsy.
Setup now coming out from Mixture once again onto Daption. Will lock down the cow. Solar Flare comes out. That W absorbs so much damage, so Array's not really bringing the pain. Bullet Time just gets sidestepped. It's that easy. Mixture hops right onto Array, will burn the flash of Array. Now showing up to the fight is Dragoon, but immediately begins the retreat as Dragoon's goons want none of Lotus.
Wow, I love how far up Mixture's playing, and Dardoch really supporting him on this Ivern has enabled Mixture to be this big front line that Dragoon's goons can't really deal with. We see Daption down 2 levels. Kizdo went for this AP heavy build. He's the only magic damage. Now, with the health bars being low, we have a Baron being started. We'll see if Lotus actually wants to commit to this. I think they want to turn.
Yeah, Mixture is happy to hop in, but it's going to come at the cost of a life, and nothing fought back by Lotus. A little bit of a slip up right there around the Baron, and Dragoon's goons are going to stop the purple worm.
I don't like that call. Bot wave ended up crashing into them, so Lotus just kind of lose from that play. They lost the bot wave and Mixture. I feel like hitting that kill, resetting the map, getting Smolder closer to 225 would have been better. Once you get Smolder to 225, that's, I think, when you can really start to play around that Baron and look for the efficient turns. They didn't have the tools to turn available to them, though, so I think starting that Baron is just really flat.
Let's do a check-in on where the stacks are currently. 2:04 for the Smolder, 22 minutes in. Definitely keeping a decent pace in that regard. Not going to be the fastest. A few more waves will do it. Get that execution online. That's when the Smolder starts to become scary.
Yeah, you can see just pretty much 2 waves away as Dragoon might be going for a look on a Robbie Bob.
Sante in this bush. Yeah. And he's just done. That was it. That was your best shot. All right.
I mean, still get feisty here if we really want it, but not gonna happen. Kizno and Daption taking their resets. Daption's still only level 7, 24 minutes into this game, or 23.5 minutes into this game. It's pretty tough. As we do see, Kizno pick up a Locket. It's gonna help a little bit with the tankiness and trying to survive some of that damage from the Gangplank barrels or the Smolder. Can be very useful moving forward. Be a double Locket team. I don't know. It feels like Dragoons, with some of the builds they went for and just where they're at right now, it feels like they're behind. And I think it's really important that they're going to be able to fight around Sudsy when that queues up, because this damage that Sudsy's gone for, it's all AD. Really no attack speed. With the nerfs to Tristana's attack speed, if that queue's not running, we aren't going to see Sudsy be doing a lot of damage.
Lotus are getting corralled around their mid lane tower, so finally looking for the counter-offensive. They will find it onto Dragoon, who's by himself. The crowd control lasts for days. Even with the bullet time coming down, it's going to do jack. It's another teamfight win for Lotus.
Wow. I mean, it's a steel caps against an 80 heavy team, and we just see the lockdown come out from the Ivern, the Leona. It's enough to keep that K'Sante stuck in a rut, so Lotus can take them down. Lotus, this time around, they really didn't burn all too much. Like, they at least have Mom and Daisy if they want it. But if I'm Lotus, I actually would drop this. I would play for the Chemtech Dragons, which actually I think are really valuable this game, just given that you have an Ivern. Every time you pick up a Chemtech Dragon, those shields, those redemption heals are just going to be more and more effective for your team that's already going to be scaling with the damage. So I actually think, like, I know Chemtech Soul is kind of slept on. It's very situational. I think in this situation, when you have Ivern, it's actually very valuable for Lotus. So I appreciate seeing them really play for this.
It's not that often we have a Chemtech apologist going up right now.
Yeah.
As Lotus now going to be in the river, but they're getting kind of pushed out from the goons right now. Fine, you still have a solid front line from the goons. I mean, Daption, being a low level, you still have the 55% damage reduction that you do get from the Unbreakable Will, so it does help to kind of superficially build up that front line for the goons to still look to take some of these fights, because they're not exactly in the biggest struggle at the moment. They still have a slight gold lead in their favor.
Still feels like they're behind, like going up against an Ivern Smolder like this, and that Smolder has reached that 225 peak. You see Nature's Grass coming down.
From every angle, this engage comes through, but the focus is right on the Mixture. Mixture is able to absorb it, and just like that, the counteroffensive begins for Lotus. Sushi will go on a rampage. Kizno gets chopped right down. Curtain Call opens up, brings some more damage for the goons, and sends a warning. This river belongs to us.
I think this game belongs to them as well, as there's just no play for Dragoon's goons to make if they take these front to backs. You cannot break this Ivern Leona setup right now. They're just too far ahead, and they won that fight convincingly enough. They're going to start bearing. Their health bars are full. Mixture's coming out of base, and TP's coming in, so Dragoon's going to try and contest, but a lot of tools are down. Bullet time, importantly, is up.
Full time's up. 6k health remains. There's an angle to use it over the wall to try and find a steal right here, and that's going to be it. Not going to secure it. I think I saw 300 before the smite went down. Sudsy hops in, gets rooted. That's the wrong spot to be!
Oh, no!
As the all in, all out, we're just jumping all over the place. It's Sudsy who falls, and Lotus are wearing purple.
Lotus walk away with everything there as they're in full control of this game. And again, like this core of this comp, it's so tough to approach these guys in the 5v5. But you see Dragoon at least attempting an angle. He doesn't actually go for anyone except for Mixture. And with no ult popped, he just gets stuck in his place yet again, loses his health bar, and the chase is on for Lotus. So again, this core, they're so damn strong. There was no setup for the bullet time from Array, which is the majority of MF's damage because it was down. This fight, just the conditions weren't there for Dragoon's Goons. Lotus cashed in. They get the Dragon, they get the Baron, and now standing objectives for them. They've only knocked down one turret until that one, so a lot of gold on the map for them to take and really cement their lead.
I do want to give another highlight over to Mixture, because in that last fight, it was Mixture who was absorbing all that damage. You know, you do get the extra defense of the W. That was maximized to holy high hell by Mixture. And the rest of the team were able to pounce. I mean, Lotus are looking fantastic. They finally have a gold lead into their favor at 3K. No neutrals on the board currently. Still got to work with this Baron buff. It'll be 3 minutes before we see the next chem tech.
Right, at this point, the map is all Lotus. Check out the items, too, on Dardoch, as he has gotten that NACLs. One way to at least secure the safety of Smolder or the Jhin, and Jin's going to play far back enough, or you got to imagine that's going to allow Robbie Bomb to step up even further and just fire off these Qs.
Bot lane turret goes down. Lotus still marching forward onto Dragoon's Goons. Goon Squad not looking too hot right now. Keep in mind, Robbie Bob does have that execute. It still is a Baron buff. All the meanwhile, side laning coming out from Dragoon's Goons. You have Dragoon over in that top lane, but will take the recall now.
Yep.
Mid lane under attack by Porsche.
Porsche killed that wave with Cannon Barrage, so that is one tool gone for Lotus, but was able to get Dragoon to base. Dragoon walking out of base now, engage.
There we go. Of the engage, we're able to find one kill. Robbie Bob bringing Mom right on down. Gizno survives with the skin of his teeth, but they'll take that as well. Now underneath the tower, it's not looking good for Mixture. Dragoon looking for the escape route, will find it, but come at a big cost. Gizno and Daption both sacrificed.
Yeah, Robbie Bob's mom was a friend when, you know, Daption was on UST, but a foe now. As Mom did some hella damage there, healing up Lotus, making sure that things went Lotus's way, and we're really just kind of getting to the finish here as Dragoon's Goons, I mean, again, they tried to match some of the scaling. Oh, hold on, Daption going in.
Here we go. Sudsy looking for an angle onto Robbie Bob. Robbie Bob's too far forward. Dragoon wants to take him out before the rest of Lotus begins the counter pounce. Sudsy gets the escape. There's minions on him, though. Dragoon still standing forward, trying to stand tall, but there is that route onto Array. Got to be careful. This Misfortune can get chopped away in no time. Another route is found. This Ivern is doing so much damn work, and it's another kill for Lotus.
Just not enough damage from the Goons here. As, I mean, Dardoch had such a massive game on this Ivern, maxing out that KP, 1-0-13. Dardoch, again, a player I still hold in very high regards. Really good to see him performing today. As we see, I mean, Sushi opens up, Mixture just sends it. I don't see Dragoon in the side lane, does have a thread coming in, but man, the upfront damage they put down onto Array and Daption was extreme. Daption did not have access to that Unbreakable, which I think really allowed for Lotus to push forward. And when that happens, like, again, with this Maokai build and no ult on the Alistar, who's already under-leveled, his front line just holds no weight against this Ivern-empowered Lotus comp that's pumping out damage.
And Lotus, they've just been off to the races for a majority of this game thus far. Dragoon's Goons, they definitely tried their hardest with this counter engage. I mean, it's definitely right to go after a target like Robbie Bob, but trying to fight this prolonged fight when you have this much crowd control, especially Ivern, who's paying a lot of dividends with these shields, with these roots, it means you're biting off more than you can chew.
I mean, and also, like, it's so hard for MF to walk up, because at this point, you're outranged by everything. And when there's no front line that can really make space for you to actually open up for these bullet times, like, you're outranged by the RFC Smolder, the Jhin, the gangplank, these barrels are doing so much work from Porsche as well. There's really no place for Dragoon. Dragoons is, I gotta give a lot of credit to Lotus. Again, I felt like when we first saw Lotus against Ducky Getters, like they were playing out the early games decently well, but then they would make a terrible mistake or two, and then lock in afterwards. Like those mistakes, just given the drafts they had, meant the game was pretty much already over. This time around, though, taking the scaling into Dragoon's Goons, who really the team that's not known for their laning, but is known for how well they fight and play maps later on and get creative. They found a scaling advantage in this draft. They had a very stable early game, and it didn't feel like Dragoon's Goons ever really got a foothold in this game. Once that third dragon was taken by Lotus, they were in full control.
And this has got to feel fantastic for Lotus so far, because Lotus has been a team that's been up there in the qualifiers. I mean, they were second in the first quals, third, fourth in the second quals. And when I talk about being second, who was first? That was Dragoon's Goons. So this is a rematch of one of those finals, and it's Lotus who are getting the better of the exchange as Porsche just goes all out. Now Dabshin looking to run away from the curtain call as Mom comes ringing right on down, and the cow gets cooked. Porsche falls, but it's too traded. The bottom lane gets sacrificed, and Lotus march forward.
Dragoon can't even get into the fight, as it will be Sudsy heading back to the base. Dragoon successfully cutting the wave, which will stop the push of Lotus, but they can just catch that top wave and go from there, and it looks like they don't even want that. They just want to set their sights on the Baron.
A reminder that qualifiers finals, that was 3-1 in favor of Dragoon's Goons. So right now, Lotus, I mean, none of that means anything if you're the team to eliminate them from the promotion itself. And you're taking the first step in the right direction as 9k health remains.
They can't walk
onto that Baron. Sudsy gets too close to Mixture, who's not afraid to engage on a dime. Kizno slaughtered by Sushi. Now the rune lands flush. Pure money from Dardoch.
Oh, I mean, the way that Mixture and Dardoch are playing off each other's, and especially Dardoch's play this game, has just been absolutely fantastic, as it's great to see Dardoch performing like this. And now, I mean, you can see nothing is stopping the Smolder from walking up Tesseract and just free-firing, really laying all the Qs possible onto Dragoon's Goons. And of course, now at 338, that extra burn, those extra Smolders coming through, going to feel pretty good. And hey, you know what else feels pretty good? A Baron buff on everyone.
Baron buff on everyone, all the Smolder bucks, everything you could really ask for Lotus in this game. Number one, 7k lead. You're not happy with the Baron buff, would you rather have a Dragon Soul? That's going to be spawning in the next 2 minutes, 20 seconds. World is their oyster, Cody.
And I mean, a surprise, honestly. Like, I don't think Dragoon's Goons have had the best tournament so far, but again, coming into this tournament, a lot of people had them qualifying as an OQ team, getting through and making it back to NACL. Keep in mind, Dragoon, his success rate in terms of promoting, it's 100% minus the time that he was in NACL itself, right? He's always been able to get through these OQs, so I feel like this team, the pedigree they carry, what they've showed in their OQ play, it was all really solid. I mean, they were top dogs for all summer. Now being one game away from elimination, you know, not the script that we were expecting coming into this week, but really the script that Lotus deserves with their play that we've seen so far.
Cubby, be careful. You've cursed us in the past before.
I feel pretty good about this one, though.
You felt good about a lot of them, Cubby.
Yeah,
now here we go. Mixture goes in, looking for Dragoon. Bullet time comes out, but it's not going to find the money. And now Mixture deep in there with the W taken away will time out, and that means Leona's dead. But so is Kizno. A double kill going to be found by Robbie Bob. Dragoon needs to hold the line, hold the door, but look who's knocking with the next. It's Lotus.
You know, when I say I feel pretty good about a Smolder being ahead, I think that's kind of what secures it. Sort of gangplank in there for boot 2 as Robbie Bob firing off Q. Second next turret falls. Lotus gonna do it.
Okay, now we can say it, Cubby. Now it's all right. Now we can take a deep breath and say that they are one game away from moving forward in the bracket and eliminating Dragoon's Goons.
GG's. I honestly, like, again, when I saw Lotus play that first series against Ducky Getters, it's not like they weren't getting leads. Just some of the decisions that they made and how heavily their comps are getting outscaled. Like, you mess up once or twice and you're on the back foot. This time around, they take the scaling comp to keep the early game really stable. And the first moment where they feel like they have some sort of foothold to play in the game, end up winning that fight, never looking back from there. Really clean game from Lotus, and frankly, player of the game for me, it's got to be Dardoch on this Ivern. Perfect game pretty much from him. had the most KP, support that he was able to give from affecting that top lane matchup early on to really just making sure that bot lane went the way of Lotus continuously. Really impressive to see Dardoch, who everyone really knew to be a carry player back in his time playing in LCS. Of course, pick up the Ivern, and this guy's just a really solid jungler, especially at this level, and really showed it in that game.
And with a lot of those fights, I mean, Ivern second rotations, third rotations, fourth rotations, they begin to add up. That's a lot of damage that's really being negated. So being there, being ever present in these fights, it's what you want from one of your most experienced players in Dardoch. I do want to give a secondary shout out. Mixture was fantastic in leading some of those engages, Kobe.
Yeah, I really feel like the jungle support duo, like, they were ahead. The front line for Lotus was bigger, and the way they were able to just make space for GP, Smolder, Jhin to just do their job was really solid. Shout out Shushi as well. I think a lot of those ult bullets as well as the deadly flourishes just to make sure that, again, space was being created, enabled Porsche and Robbie Bob the way down the damage, and that's what they did as those defending CLOL champs get the best of their old teammate Daption move to 1-0.
Hey man, it is exciting series to see, especially when we have these new guns, these young guns, taking it to some of the players like Array and Daption. Makes it for an exciting series, man. Well, series is going to continue right after the break. We're going to throw it over, and when we return, we'll get ready for game number 2.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost. Welcome back, everyone, to the NACL Promotions. Game number 1 now done between Lotus and Dragoons Goons. Despite Goons winning both qualifiers, being the favorites coming in, it's Lotus who are able to take game number 1.
I mean, for me, just a really strong strategy going off of some strengths that this team has. It'll be Porsche on that gangplank. Really, really big game from him. And Dardoch being the supportive Ivern in this scenario. Again, I really feel like this Maokai felt pressure to go for magic damage, given they were the only magic damage in the comp. And the front line of the Leona, empowered by Ivern, into Maokai that went Leandres early, and an Alistar that ended up being under-leveled earlier on in the game, really opened things up for Lotus to make space for their carries and get that damage down. So a really, really nice game from them. You can see, like, with that smaller comp, they really took off when they won that 3rd dragon fight and just never looked back in this game. The 4th dragon cementing their lead in victory.
It was a very fun game to watch as we run down the post-game breakdown presented by The Real Cause. I mean, as you were saying, the Ivern really did pay a lot just from how extended these fights were and how willing Mixture was able to go in. I'm sure there were like 2 or 3 shields that Dardoch was able to place on Mixture off of these heavy engages. But on the flip side of things, I want to look at what did Dragoons Goons do well. One of the things that sticks out to me that they can probably expand on is Sudsy in the mid lane. He was able to get the better of Robbie Bob and constantly bullying him out of lane, but there was nothing much else that came from that. I would like to see a little bit more.
Yeah, Sam, I didn't like the Triss build either. I think that the Reaver build actually has some merit to it, just keeping the mana up so you can just spam your abilities, but the Collector IE was kind of weird for me. And I will say, I'm going to expose Desrex a bit for something that he said right when we got into our break screen. It was one game, and he's like, you went like, man, I'm kind of sold on Mixture after that game. He really found some nice angles. Again, I'm really for this guy. I think he has a lot of talent at support. And the way that he sees engages, sees how to play some of these fights, I really feel like is at that NACL level. He's a player I really want to see at the next level this year. And it's fun to see him now be 1 win away from him taking one more step from doing that with this roster.
Yeah, that was an undeniable performance coming out from Mixture on the Leona to get the engages, and even knowing what your role was in a lot of these team fights. Sometimes it was just about throwing that solar flare onto the Misfortune and making sure you put hard into that. You know what? Let's sing our new players' praises, because when they're showing up, when they're arriving, that's what we got to do. We got to promote this new talent. Getting ready for game number 2 now. Lotus versus Dragoons Goons. Now, this is Fearless. Once again, always got to remind people that, because what happened in the last game, those champions picked, they are not allowed in this one.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've really seen with Fearless is that it forces you to just win in different ways, right? You're getting different champs, and even with the old Fearless format where the champs are only banned away from you can still take handshake matchups and play things a little bit differently, or play into the comp that like you were just able to win with or something similar. No, this time around is completely different. One thing, though, that usually is not different is the bans. Those are usually pretty consistent. That said, Lotus taking away the Varus, I believe, is different from game 1, so maybe trying to leave up something like a Senna for themselves to first pick.
A reminder, this is the best of 3 Fearless, so we're not going to get into those deep stages where you start losing some of your draft bans. It's been a lot of fun. You guys haven't been watching. You got to see some of the VODs going on in the NACL playoffs and even the finals that we have coming up this Sunday. But back to the attention over here. First pick coming out from Lotus will be the Azir.
Yeah, and a bit of a deny from Sudsy. Sudsy, a very talented Azir player. But notably, Senna is still on the board. So we will see if Senna ends up being selected. I will say, as Senna has kind of made waves and gotten further into this patch, I think a lot of people have figured out that Seraphine's quite a good pick into it. I think, though, with the Azir open, like, as Dragoons Goons, if you really wanted to, you could go for something like Senna Seraphine bot, which is a bit weaker early on, but scales so hard into the game. That said, that won't be the pick. It is going to be the Sudsy Yone with a Zyra potentially for Kisno, likely for Kisno, to kick this one off. So Sudsy getting a matchup that he is somewhat comfortable on, playing the Yone into the Azir.
Playing the Yone, it always has some big playmaking potential that you can pull off with that big ultimate. Same thing with the Zyra, and it does provide a lot of zone control, especially if you do get first set up with your plants. You're able to place them around the dragon, and makes it hard to move forward. But now we are just getting the spicy picks in. Dr. Mundo locked in for Lotus.
That is a very early Mundo pick. I have not seen a Mundo pick that early in a long time. So I guess, onus on Dragoon to see if he wants to counter it here. I mean, curious to see Porsche with some of the champs that he has pulled out. I feel like the Rumble ban for Dragoon always pretty standard as it beats a lot of his pool. But so far, Porsche taking the GP, taking the Mundo. These are champs that really counter tanks, counter brawlers. Most of the pool that Dragoon's used to playing, we don't know him for playing stuff like the Vayne top. That said, that might change here, might get a little bit different, as at least Corki's being hovered. We'll see if Dragoon does go for something like a Vayne. It's a really hard counter matchup, but doesn't give Dragoon's goons really what we're used to seeing from them, which is a team fight comp around array. And I mean, with Kaisa being picked, that is now a dive identity, someone to follow up on the Yone going into the backline if necessary, and still really building around what we're used to seeing from Dragoon's goons and Array, who has been that fantastic team fighter, does get his hands on the Kaisa.
Yeah, a lot of dive potential that I'm excited to watch with the Yone and Kaisa combo. But the thing is, it's hard units to lock down. Ezreal does have Arcane Shift, will be moving around the map quite a bit. And if you do get on this Azir, you have to be snappy about it, because the Shurima Shuffle, Emperor's Divide can be an excellent disengage tool. As we head into the second phase of the draft, the name of the game is going to be supports, getting rid of some of those engaged supports in both the Braum and the Nautilus.
Yeah, I don't love the Braum ban here, as Braum is something that, like, I feel like Lotus kind of needs some main engage, flashing Azir, Ezreal, and Mundo, but it would really hold the line and counters a lot of the champs that Kaisa wants to be paired with. So immediately getting rid of the Nautilus. I think banning Rel is worth it here, as you would really knock Dragoon's goons further down the totem pool of what's actually good at the support pool. But maybe the goons don't want to blind Rel. Maybe they want to go for something like their top lane pick, as Mundo is showing. Speaking of top lane picks, Dragoon not going to get his hands on the Darius, but that ban means that the Rel does get through and will be selected by Daption.
Let me throw something your way for a second,
Janna?
buddy.
You've seen some Janna.
No,
Janna's good against Rel.
Much different than that.
Okay.
Our playoffs for the first qualifiers, this Mundo was picked before. This was Dardoch who played it in the jungle. This might be a Dardoch pick, Cubby.
That would make a little bit more sense to me, given where it was selected into the Zyra. You do benefit off of building some magic damage. Oh, Janna! Oh, look at that. I called it. It's a hard counter into Rel. It functions pretty well in this comp at the moment. Lotus, they really need some form of engage. So if it does end up being Dardoch in the jungle, Renekton's okay here. I think it functions decently well into the game, but you can get your Sterex denied by Rel, which can be pretty unlucky. And also, that's not really like the engage tool that we're looking for from Lotus, so it might be Sudsy missiling himself into the backline and going from there. But now, I mean, Dragoon has an option to counterpick. Something I would love Olaf this game. Please go for Olaf. I actually think Olaf's the pick.
As we wait for that pick to come through,
Olaf.
What I do kind of like from Lotus is they have great disengage tools, but it kind of stops right there for me in terms of things I like. So we'll see what Dragoon's goons look to go for. Are they going to heed the call of Olaf? The answer is no. Go for the side lane and they go for the Jax.
Yeah, I mean, Jax works. It's a Dragoon specialty. You can scale into this matchup, but I think Jax is decent in this game. You can still get kited out, though, by Janna. I really like the Olaf. I feel like there's like a lack of engage as Lotus, and with Olaf, you just press that R. Janna doesn't mean anything to you anymore. It kind of becomes mincemeat. That's actually a game we saw FlyQuest play it, and it was Quacker and Blue Water taking them out in that game, if you remember that one from our Challengers League this past regular season, Deserux. That said, I think Dragoon's Goons, they have the opportunity to really press 3 lanes later on in the game if they want to play a 3-lane setup. And I expect them to put a lot of focus on the bot side. Curious, though, like I really feel like Lotus, they have the opportunity to win lanes. And if they can really snowball that into another victory, it could be very big.
Well, we are ready for game number 2. Match point for Lotus as they face off against Dragoon's Goons. This is in the lower bracket elimination on the line. Dragoon's Goons are fighting for their tournament lives. Let us know in Twitch chat who got this one. Will it be Lotus or will it be Dragoon's Goons? I know yesterday Kangas and Beatdown gave a name for Dragoon's Goons. It's the Goon Squad. That's the name of the fan base, Dragoon's Goons. What would Lotus's fan base be, Cubby?
Flower power, baby.
Flower power. Good ring to it. Very much
it
so,
does. But it's a go-to.
What's going on with Kisno right here?
Flash.
I don't think he escapes this. Wait, okay. There's enough members there to actually help out. The flash burns away early from Kizno, and only 100 health to start off the jungle.
Do want to say we have Robbie Bob going for the grass variation of Azir, so idea for this is to get some health behind you, and I feel like the front line's big enough, but I do like this kind of being the off tank. If he's able to survive the initial engage, can do some work, but low damage for Lotus if he's not going for Nash's first, ends up going for the Andres. I'm going to keep my eye on that build. And Kizno is going to start up the camps, will be able to heal up given the plants do some of the tanking. So that just gets the flash out. See if Dardoch makes any use of it, though, from here. Starting the blue buff, don't think that will be the case, but they did get a ward on the red buff of Kizno, so we'll have scouting down and should be able to kind of guess where this Zyra's pathing.
Now, there is a counter ward for Dragoon's Goons over by the Raptors, so if Dardoch does take that ramp over by the Raptors to come into counter jungle, it still will be information going back the other way. But given that Dardoch has been seeing this red buff up for quite some time, eventually that information is going to come through as Daption looks for an engage onto Mixture. Mixture forced to burn the flash to get away.
Yeah, well played by Daption to force the flash. So where this matchup is tough is... Oh, hold on, Mixture. No NATO yet.
Yeah, Mixture's not getting away from this one. This is going to be first blood surely for Array. Gets one more auto. Will secure that one as Sushi burns flash to escape the grasp of Kizno and Daption.
I do really like the focus of Dragoon's Goons. So this matchup's tough for Rel because that Tornado can keep the crash down. It pretty much just cancels it so that Rel can't get in range. And Janna stacks up so much move speed, it's really difficult for Rel to get in range to find those Qs if you don't have flash. So I think the flash force from Daption, very good early on, and a bit of an oopsie from Mixture to fall prey to that one. Needs to play further back on the Janna. With doubles, though, this matchup does get very good, as it is a solo queue matchup against the Rel. We do have Dardoch finishing up his full clear. Will make his way down here, and Daption has no flash to fall.
Yeah, there's no flash, so you just need to land that briefcase, and it's cash money. Array will flash underneath the tower to get to safety, but Lotus strike back.
Dardoch finding his old teammate from UST and able to open up a little bit of space for this bot lane. Array will still base with a kill in hand, so a pickaxe start for the Kaisen. Not shabby whatsoever, but I will say Dardoch did base, didn't actually go for that bot crab. I'm wondering if he's able to get up to the top crab in time to fight, because Porsche does have that wave in, so a real chance for Dardoch to find a double crab here.
Dardoch hyper aware of where Kizno is right now with that ward coming through. Zyra will be spotted, so Dardoch is headed straight into that direction.
Porsche canceled base.
Now started up Dardoch.
Yeah, they're collapsing.
Don't realize he's in there. He just snatches it with ease, man. Kizno is flashless, so Sudsy has to do some miracle work here to save this jungler. But nope, the flower will get picked, and Lotus get another kill.
I mean, I saw that one coming from a mile away just because I have full info and saw that Dardoch reset early. I think that Dragoon's Goons just assumed that Dardoch picked up that bot crab off the bot lane play, but a great play from Dardoch to find that timer and go punish the flashless Zyra, who of course lost at level 1.
That's what you expect from someone as experienced as Dardoch,
That's
who spent
fantastic.
so much time in tier 1, who spent so much time in tier 2, who spent so much time in CLOL. That's the type of heads up play you want to see. 101 on this Mundo pocket pick Mundo jungle. Now Dragoon pulling away the croc.
Yeah, Dragoon did go for that longsword reset, was able to get the first 3 waves in, and managed to find a really good trade on the Porsche. Burn that stun into the Counter-Strike of Jax. So there is a window where after the Counter-Strike is casted, you can actually find the stun, but Porsche not able to find it there. Should be okay with second wind and D-shield here, as there's no help from Dragoon on her turret, but Dragoon's going to get a plate off this for sure.
I mean, easy take.
Uh-oh.
You don't want to get
Miss
baited
Caddy,
in
too.
To trying to take down this Renekton underneath the tower, because there, you get that burst of health that comes out from the Q, especially if you can build up that rage bar that will amplify that healing to keep Porsche into lane.
Yeah, we are seeing Dardoch wrap up that second clear. Gonna keep my eyes out to see where he ends up going, as we're gonna see Dragoon actually match the reset of Renekton, so he's even on items. Does get that sheen, but frankly, this is the window in the matchup that Renekton can win. Okay, actually went for the steel caps here, and it's versus the Phage of Dragoon. Dragoon's up. That's actually really big for the Jax right now, because I see Dardoch resetting, and Sight's going to be set on the Grubs. A lot of time, Grubs just secured because you have Renekton. Meanwhile, bot side, though, Mixture's going to have to be careful. He's got to sidestep this Q. Still no flash.
Yeah, it's happening once again for Mixture. I mean, Daption pretty much just has this on lockdown. Sees Mixture stepping up a little bit too far forward. The timer is that easy. With no flash, I mean, there's not much mobility on a Janna to be really had other than extra move speed. So it's another kill on the way of Dragoon's Goons in the bot.
Really big that they're getting this Kai'Sa ahead. Also, I don't love this start. Okay, I gotta pause. Dardoch actually, he stopped heading towards the grubs. He wants to contest this bot side. Sushi walking up on the Ezreal. And this is being held in terms of DPS. The Goon's gonna get forced off.
Lotus right on top of it. Dragoon will smite it away. No! It's Kisno will be able to hold steady and not get stolen by Dardoch.
That's really big because Dardoch, like, that's the timer you kind of expect for grubs to potentially be under threat. But instead, Dardoch goes just tries to yoink the dragon. Unsuccessful in terms of doing it. And Dragoon gets to keep on at least pressuring topside to get access to plants, which will help keep up with the sustain of Renekton. It's going to be very difficult for Jax. And this matchup keeps on going in Jax's favor as this game goes later. So I think the fact that Dragoon is at this point of the game is really nice.
And with the way this plays out as a whole, I mean, it's the first neutral that Dragoon's Goons were able to get into this game. They get the first strike of the game, but because of the way they got it, they were able to grab it off a steal. You still have priority in the top side. It means you're getting both at this point. You'll get the grubs as well.
Really big for Dragoon's Goons. Something I do want to check in on. Did mention Robbie Bob going for the Nashers versus the Leandries, as we do see Dardoch yoink the last of the grubs, so will be a split. Looks like it's going to be the Leandries start for Robbie Bob. I do expect the Nashers second, but it really does slow down the DPS of Lotus. The Lotus, if they do want to take a fight, they're really going to have to burst someone out. They cannot afford to take just a straight DPS fight, because if you're going against a Kai'Sa that's allowed to auto, Zyra damage, a Jax, a Yone, I don't think they win at this point of the game. They're really going to have to lean on their range and poke tools to get a health bar advantage and use that to set up one-shots or just such a big advantage that we can't play the fight as Dragoon's Goons. Once Nashers comes in on Azir, it gets a little bit easier, but given where the Kai'Sa's at in this game, given that Sudsy's pretty much even in the mid lane, I do actually really favor Dragoon's Goons comp at the moment. Things are standard.
Ushi trying to stand it out to get the counter kill onto Daption. They begins to bail, gets slowed up by Mixture in the process. The way it once again gets pushed in. There's the flash forward from Daption, getting caught out by the NATO. 200 health remains onto Daption. Lotus still holding their own, but underneath tower and more pressure's coming.
Daption's still yoinking summoner spells, and Dardoch will slip in here, but after Kisno, as now Kisno might get turned on. No flash on Kisno again.
Oh, how does Kisno get away from this one? You can see right there, the passive means you don't even get crowd control against this Mundo. Kisno goes down.
I appreciate Dragoon's Goons trying to set up this bot lane dive, but I think that Daption ended up sinking a little bit too much of his health bar into trying to get this wave in. And then Dardoch on the hover. I think that Dragoon's Goons should be able to just reasonably assume that Dardoch is clearing top to bot after he took that grub, given where he started and the camps that were up. So, bit of an oopsie there from Kisno and Dragoon's Goons, in my opinion.
I just love saying Dragoon's Goons. You could say Goons. You could stop at that, but you're saying the whole thing, Goon.
Committing to the bit, man.
Fair enough.
Just like they are. Yeah. At least
take a look.
I gotta make Minions references next. I feel like that's really the next step in all this.
I still want to come up with something more enticing for Lotus. Maybe I can rely on Twitch chat for that one. Give us a fan base name for Lotus, Twitch chat. You got the Goon Squad for Dragoon's Goons. Is it just going to be Flower Power for Lotus? Coming into the jungle right now is Daption, looking to fight for control over the vision, even get the sweeping plant on top of it. So far, it's a slight lead coming out for Lotus. I do have the same fear as you have, especially because we haven't talked about... actually, gotta hold that thought because here we go.
Oh.
Looking to go for the shuffle, doesn't find it onto Sudsy. And having to run the long way back, there are some teammates can help Mr. President in the mid lane. Means Robbie Bob's gonna survive.
Well played by Sudsy, buffering the Emperor's Divide with the ult of his own. Not quite able to seal the fate of Robbie Bob, though, as Mixture came in with the shield to help out. So will be nice. That alive. That said, Sushi going to be alone in the bot lane. Daption moving his way back down, and Mixture has to take the long way, being the Janna. Too squishy to really risk that health bar. So We'll see. I do find it curious, though. Like, so far, Lotus, decent start. We did talk about... I know that you mentioned the finals. It was a 3-1 loss for Lotus against Dragoon's Goons. The one game they were able to pick up was actually Dardoch on this Mundo pick.
On the Mundo, yeah.
Yeah, so... and this start for Dardoch on the Mundo pick, he's been fantastic. I mean, the find bot lane was a great answer. That quick base, not taking that bot crab, then go contest the flashless Zyra on the top side, and end up really paying off. Match Zyra's next play to the bot side. So Dardoch been very successful in reading Kisno and setting him behind. And is the person that is very far ahead on a jungle pick that can carry in this Mundo.
One thing I'm going to be interested about coming up very, very soon is going to be the next spawning of Void Grubs. Actually, got to hold that because it's another dive in the bot lane. I want to talk about those grubs, but man, we just keep fighting. And the reason I think this could play into something a little bit more significant, especially if Dragoon's Goons are able to grab it, you have a lot of side laning with Dragoon's Goons. They can capitalize on these grubs pretty heavily.
I think that's a great call. Talked about it in draft. The ability for the Jax and the Yone to play side lanes will be really nice. He's now actually going to drop grubs to attempt to dive. Force with a Q can clear out this wave.
Clears it out pretty fast, but there's just too much damn damage. The flash forward coming out from Dragoon means you needed a summoner to clean it up, but it's a kill clean nonetheless.
Well played by Kisno to pick up the aggro. It allowed Dragoon to stay in the fight and make sure that kill went his way, as he will find that one. I gotta say, I think Porsche is going for an Eclipse as well, so curious about his starting item. Usually we just see the Black Cleaver into the Sterax, so you are the frontliner as Renekton, but of course you are paired up with a Mundo who can really be that frontline, tank the damage, do what Mundo does best, so build adaptation coming in for Porsche. I don't know if I love it or not. Jax does get a lot of free resistances, as likely to go steel caps in this game, so yeah, we'll see how that one works out.
Lane's getting harder too. Dragoon just finished that Trinity Force.
It's pretty big. It's pretty big.
Pretty good finish coming out right there. Game state right now, it's a slight lead coming out for Dragoon's Goons. We still have 45 seconds before plates do fall. And the plates, if you've been taken, especially over on that top side, it's just been a battle between Porsche and Dragoon.
We're going to pull this one up a little bit early, but, you know, given that we're highlighting it. We're ahead of schedule here, Deathrex. Good job. Always good to be early. Oh. Hold on, mid. Yeah. A little fancy with it. Robbie Bob, of course, did go for that Leandries first, so we are going to see him feel pretty decent in the mid lane. Next objective, with that Dragon being taken a little bit, I'd say on time, will be a solo Rift Herald that will spawn. Wondering if we see any swaps coming out from Lotus to try and prioritize that one, because as long as you keep this Renekton versus Jax matchup in the top lane at this item break point, will be Jax finding priority.
Is she really fighting out to be that heavily pressured? I mean, Array had one more plate, pretty close to taking, but it did time out to be able to score that one. Now, a lot of attention over towards this top side where Rift Herald has spawned. Meanwhile, potential setup for a dive from Dragoon's Goons.
So, of course, spotted on both boards as he does try and get in here. Root sidestep by Mixture. But Sushi and Mixture are going to feel the pressure enough to fade down. Sudsy was spotted clearing out this mid wave. But Lotus, respecting the fact that he could be moving down, as Sudsy did fog, actually not going for the move. Just soft pressure on the map. That way bot lane goes down. Meanwhile, Dragoon trying to take the top lane turret will do so successfully, but now...
Turret's not enough. Wants a damn kill as well. Going after the Gator Slice and Dice. Still gets caught out by the stun, but will be able to get out of the grasp of Dragoon. And now it's Dragoon who's in a world of hurt. It's Robbie Bob who secures the kill.
5 drops for Dragoon's Goons will open up a bit of damage on this mid lane turret. Meanwhile, Herald spawned in the top side. Array and Daption will be here to answer in time, though, as some tools burn to make sure this mid lane outer falls for Dragoon's Goons. Kisno might be cut off here.
Yeah, Kisno not realizing what he was walking up to, has to burn his flash, but Dardoch will match it in an easy pickup for the Mundo.
I mean, this Mundo just runs over the Zyra. We've seen this a couple times now. I believe the Herald did crash in the top side, was not able to bring that down. Or not close to bringing that one down. Actually, I don't know if it crashed or not. Array might have gotten that one, so Herald kind of goes to the wayside. But at least Dardoch was able to get something. While Herald was up, Dragoon's Goons were responding on the top side. Dardoch did pick up Kisno towards the mid lane, and 3-0-2. Yet again, Dardoch leading his team in kill participation and leading the way for Lotus as they try and find the upset on Dragoon's Goons.
And on this incredible pocket pick that we have from the Mundo, I mean, it's always fun to see it come through, especially considering that this was something that they used in that playoffs finals from before. And Dragoon once again hopping right onto this Gator. I mean, Porsche is having such a bad time trying to match Dragoon.
Yeah, I really like the approach that Dragoon took getting into the lane there. It enabled him to follow that double E from Porsche, who's honestly having a hard time in this matchup. I think Dragoon's really been outplaying him in this game. He was set on the weak side early on. The early moves we saw from Dardon. Usually as Renekton, you are able to get just a little bit of a lead in this lane. We have not seen Porsche be able to do that against Dragoon this time around. And being this far behind in items, I really don't think you can do any damage with the flips in the build for Porsche. So Dragoon, again, we talked about the Goons being able to set up that big side lane threat. Dragoon certainly online in this game.
20 seconds for Dragon does come up. Lotus looking for the inside track. Dragoon's Goons currently have the mid lane priority to work their way into there, as well as Control Ward. Establish that vision.
Yeah. Dragoon's gotten bot lane in deep. So Robbie Bob's going to have to respond, and I'm curious if Lotus even wants to contest this, because he could just give Porsche a top lane turret for free, with Dragoon being bot. It is a numbers advantage for the Goons.
Ooh, Fate's sealed coming out, but will not seal the fate of Sushi just yet. Having to recall back over Sudsy.
I mean, Dragoon's bot.
Now that's one big ultimate that's down, but for Dragoon's Goons, you just mentioned Dragoon's bot. They don't really need a fight. They just need to hold them here, and Dragoon will take another tower.
Yeah, he's going to have to seed this because Lotus is moving down to defend, but it did secure his team this Dragon for free between the chunk on the Sushi and the push from Dragoon. Some good use of side laning there, and also, I don't mind what Lotus did here. They end up dropping the Dragon to make sure that some gold gets back on the Porsche, and I think their power window in this game is going to be a bit later. Their team fight, their 5v5, when, you know, Mundo, Ezreal, Janna pick up 2-3 items once we get the Nashor's Tooth onto Azir and get some DPS back. For Lotus, it's going to be stronger. So I think in this window, and given the map state, very appropriate for Lotus to drop that and at least find some gold on the Porsche.
I could see it overall stronger, but in terms of like who gets the first engage, I think that's going to matter quite a bit when we do get towards those 5v5s.
Yeah.
And for the most part here, Dragoon. Oh, this is a lot of goons I got to say there.
Dragoon on Dragoon's Goons, nearly gooned by Robbie Bob.
Keep it going, come on.
Robbie Bob whacked the Goons to make the play on Dragoon of Dragoon's Goons.
You know what? Good job, Cubby. Good job.
I'm practicing my tongue twisters as well. Oh, hold on, that's a hop. Robbie Bob.
There's a lot of goons over here as the Emperor's Divide comes out, pulls Dragoon to what could be his demise. He'll fight it out tooth and nail, still succumbing to Dardock.
Meanwhile, mid lane, we see Daption. I believe he burned his flash or Hex Flash. Did get the flash out of Sushi. They get the mid inner to half, but that is all the Goons are able to get as their leader goes down in the bot side. Will be a turret picked up for Lotus and some much needed gold onto the Azir, who will likely have Nashers now in base, and Lotus starting to do some work in terms of holding strong here, Deserux.
When Dragoon's Goons don't have Dragoon gooning the map, God, I hate this so much.
I mean, we're doing it to ourselves.
You lose so much pressure on the map when Dragoon's not there. He is the side lane extraordinaire who was able to get up and early in that lane. So losing that does give some momentum and tempo back to Lotus. Weren't able to do too much with it. They are pushing Vision forward, but you can see how heavily, especially over towards that Baron side, that Vision still belongs to Dragoon's Goons.
Yeah, and you know, while all this is going on, we still talk a lot about the side lane prowess that Dragoon's Goons comp can have. It's Array who's gotten the majority of the gold and is really set up for success. The player that we highlighted getting into this series who has been that rock-solid team fighter, that the team fight identity of Dragoon's Goons has really been built behind. So Array, again, on this Kaisa, has opened up a lead on the Sushi with the help of Daption, who had some early pressure. Kisno, a lot of focus was put onto the bot lane of Dragoon's Goons. And Array being in this position at this game state, this Kaisa is going to be pumping for the rest of the game with that Rage Blade completed. And knowing Array likely to go for the Nashers coming up next. It was actually really fun. And the Kaisa game that he got earlier on in this tournament, I saw him hit 5 Ws in a row in a fight. He leaves some crazy ones in. Array's always been a very strong Kaisa player. Allows him to reposition now. Set up on the left side of the fight. We will see if Lotus do decide to pull the trigger as Baron is spawned. I think that it's just the posture. But we have Robbie Bob really pushing.
They're trying to pull Robbie, yeah.
Yeah, so they need to pull his TP. Will be scouted now. Game of chicken. When's Robbie going to TP? Okay, here.
It's a good amount of damage that's being taken out from Dragoon's Goons. They might miss out on this one as Daption comes in, able to find the engage. Out comes the shuffle, only gets one for one trade thus far, but it's getting found by Lotus, who are going after Dragoon. Dragoon wants the counter-strike to come off cooldown, but will not find it. Sushi takes him down with the Mystic Shot. Array's left by himself. It's a double kill for Dardoch as the Goons fall.
I don't like the approach for Dragoon's Goons in this. I feel like you need to get your side lanes pushed out and kind of force Lotus to start to actually draw out your own TPs instead. I feel like given the drafts we have, the roles are reversed. It's a start for Dragoon's Goons, and the opener from Daption was strong, but Porsche gets into the backline here as we get a replay. And this engage from Daption's fine. They're able to one-shot Mixture. Look at the work that Porsche is able to do. Hisno was able to get off an ult, but I believe it was used to DPS down the Baron. And this front line, the amount of kiting that came out from Sushi, from the Azir, holding this front line strong. Array couldn't get through Dardoch in the backside. Array really wasn't able to be given the space that he needs to team fight. And you want Kai'Sa to go in over the top. That was a front to back for Array. He was never able to pick his spot in the fight. It shut down to the back half. And just like that, this game takes off in Lotus's favor as they have the Baron buff. And again, they've only knocked down 2 objectives so far, so the amount of standing gold they have on the Rift is massive.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're cashing in right now. I mean, for the way that the fight went down, you had that True Shot Barrage come in from Sushi, you had Baron damage. Your backline was at half health when Porsche went in on it. That shouldn't have been the call to go in, and this might cost them their tournament lives. Now Sudsy looking for an angle on the bot lane. Will be able to pop out the Sterax. Might go for the full dive. It's a little bit more out of Porsche in the process. Goons looking for a siege over in the top lane.
They are able to force Porsche out at least, but even the Ezreal coming in to help kill this wave, and the 2 members of the Goons being here, Lotus looking for a play elsewhere. Array doesn't have access to either Psalm, has to ult out.
Remember, Dardoch's been getting a lot of food. He's been eating well, so he can take up this tower for Lotus as he goes godlike. Another one will fall in front of him. Robbie gives his life for the cause.
Takes down his old teammate in Daption. 2 for 1 found. That said, Objective Bounty Inner found for Dragoon's Goons, so actually not all bad. But with the members lost, you gotta imagine that Lotus trying to force Dragoon out of this side of the jungle. We'll take the blue buff, and given that we had some members fall, looks like they're just gonna retreat and secure that dragon safe.
Seems like the weakest part for Lotus right now is the side laning, and that's what Dragoon's Goons are trying to play towards. They had Sudsy trying to take on the Gator. They had Dragoon earlier taking on the Gator. Now the question is, when you go for these plays, are you going to be giving up too much? You only have a slither of health on that bot lane turret before they start getting on inhibitors.
I do like this push from Lotus, and just an understanding from them with this Janna pick. Again, we've seen it just only engaged supports pretty much being played, but I think some of these OQ teams really pull out some of these Enchantresses. I've really appreciated. I think that with some of the patch changes that have been made, there's a little bit more room in the meta for these champs to actually emerge and thrive. And understanding, hey, we have a 3v2. They can't kill us with their first round of spells. Let's just let them engage into us. We have Mundo, we have Janna. There's no chance they can move us. Exactly what Lotus is able to do. Robbie Bob sacks his life to find another one. And Lotus continue to snowball that advantage forward. Because now, I mean, all eyes, they've got to be on Array. He's working towards that Nashor's Tooth. I really feel like Array is the last standing hope for Dragoon's Goons. They want to win this game and keep their tournament hopes alive.
Look at the itemization of Dardoch. That's 3 items now completed on top of the boots.
I mean, look at this.
Oh, word.
Yeah, he's
doing big business, man.
big business on the Rift.
Those investments are paying off. 11.3k, and it's another tower down as Lotus grab that bot lane tier 2. Only one more outer turret, inner I should say, really remains over the top lane. True Shot Barrage comes out. You see how snappy Lotus are. They want to find a fight.
Now, I mean, like, with this Janna, even the poke from Array's Kai'Sa, it's not as effective now. Just given the fact that you can shield it, and you kind of get some remnants that heal up people around you too. Moonstone being that item that really gives you everything you could possibly want as healing and shielding Enchantresses on the Rift. Now, Dragoon's Goons' next objective up is going to be that Baron, up in a $150 here. I really want to see them commit to actually playing the side lanes and farming out the map and not being the first on the objective. If Dragoon's Goons are the first on the objective, they're going to be in trouble. Because the poke that you can eat from a Mundo, from an Azir, it's so hard to engage in the Janna. Hold on. Sudsy. Okay.
Oh god, this looks so personal from Dardoch. He's just hunting them all down. On the briefcases, and Sudsy's in pain.
Yeah, he cannot be moved. Yeah, Dragoon, see if he can find an angle. We do have Daption down here. If he shows, you gotta imagine that that's going to be a hard topside commit from Lotus, who are already involved. If Robbie Bob burns a Q here, maybe Dragoon decides to go on him. As, actually, a round of ward. We're going to have Kisno sneak in. Here comes the fight.
And he can flash back in to try and continue this chase, but Kisno's left by himself. Still gets knocked up, which means Counter-Strike should land. No, it does not. Flashed out by Robbie Bob, who's going to challenge the play. Now Kisno misses the root, and Robbie Bob! Robert Bobbert will get the kill.
That first root miss, that could just spell the doom for the Goons. Because again, the hard commit topside that I teased, it's been put forward by Lotus. That inhibitor is going to fall. Dragoon's trying to reset. Still a numbers advantage for Lotus as Robbie Bob TP's in now with the Zhonya's completed.
This is looking really bad for Dragoon's Goons. They need to fight this out now. Tournament lives on the line as a big ult is found by Sudsy. Is it big enough, though? One's going to be picked up. Two's going to be picked up. The defense from Dragoon's Goons still coming through as Dardoch is just too much of a man to handle. Puts the briefcase onto the dome, and it's a dead Dragoon.
Kisno is respawning, Array's up, but he has access to nothing for this fight as Dardoch continues to push forward and be the big frontliner.
No one can stop this man. He's too tanky, too much health, too much business. Robbie Bob, able to go golden, looking to get out of this situation, will not find his way to an escape. It's Array who takes him down. Killer Instinct available, but no fight left in the gas tank for Dragoon's Goons.
Yeah, no win, though, for Lotus, as they are at least able to survive the onslaught. And again, that side lane play going awry. Kisno missing both E's onto Robbie Bob was rather tough, as we're going to get a full glimpse at that topside fight yet again. Daption has a decent send to get onto Mixture, but unlike the last fight, the Janna lives through the first round of spells, so that Monsoon ends up getting off in the fight, and it's a lot of healing that Mixture's able to bring, even pushing Dragoon away, who has to now commit the flash to make sure that Janna goes down. So a lot of tools were burned. Sudsy was forced out of the fight. Dragoon, no flash. Yes, Mixture fall, but everything being burned really enabled Lotus to press forward. It was a little bit too much in the end, but as we return to the picture-in-picture, Baron's being started. Dragoon's Goons nowhere close to contesting this objective. This looks like it's going to fall over to Lotus.
Easy take for Lotus. One more Hail Mary attempt comes out from Array. Close, but no cigar. Now Lotus wearing purple, 7.3k. Now in the lead. Dragon has spawned. Goons headed into that direction. Right now, it looks like we're just doing the formalities. We're crossing T's. We're dotting our I's before Lotus look for an end.
Dragon to 9, little console. I mean, it's something, but they're being routed by Porsche here, who is on the flank. Lotus looking for a fight.
It's led by Porsche. Teleport being channeled. Porsche's taking a lot of damage before the rest of Lotus are able to get here. He will fall. Shurima Shuffle comes out and returns one in an instant, but the Fade still finds his mark. Array follows through with the Killer Instinct. Will find one. Gets knocked up by the Tornado, though. Dardoch, however, 2-on-1. He don't care. Mundo goes where he damn well pleases. A triple kill for Sushi. And Lotus, they'll exercise their demons. They will take down the Goons as they march for the end.
Dardoch is standing on business versus the one old teammate he had from his UST time. Looking down Daption, all the damage dealers are gone. Daption is doing his best to cut the wave, but that Rel is going to fall on top of Dragoon's Goons' chances to promote to NACL as Lotus finds the 2-0.
What a performance coming out, especially from this man right here, Dardoch. Smash it with the briefcase. Headbutt that damn Nexus. It's well earned. Lotus 2-0.
And what a series from Dardoch. Both games on the supportive Ivern and the carry from Mundo was just massive. As I mean, it really felt like he gapped Kisno in that series. And Lotus, I like the strats they ran. It just feels like in this game too, like Dragoon's Goons, they were really in a situation to win this game. But starting that first Baron on their own, having no one to actually match Robbie Bob in the side lane, like that's not what your comp's built to do. And like when the roles got reversed, we really saw Lotus That's what got them their foothold into the game. They never looked back. They scaled off with that Enchantress and the Janna, the Mundo scaling, the Ezreal scaling, that Azir. Everyone ended up being so big for Lotus. They found that win.
Let's pull up a replay right now because I feel like we had, what, somewhere around a 7K, 8K gold lead at this very moment. I feel like if Dragoon's Goons were much more patient, this team fight, if it was an even state, looks so much better.
Yeah, like Sudsy and Kisno got out of that Emperor's Divide. It was quite nice. Array is able to get in and execute Robbie Bob. It's just the Mundo ended up with the most gold in the game, potentially the most damage. He was a bit of a problem.
Look at this man.
They got none of his health bar. Wow. That's standing on business for sure.
Overall, fantastic performance from Dardoch as well as the Lotus gang to take that win. We're going to pull up the post-game breakdown presented by The Real Cost. You can see where all that damage lies. A lot of that going over to Robbie Bob. But I'm just saying, second place damage for a full tank Mundo, bro.
Yeah. I mean, that really was the game for Dardoch. Shout out to Dragoon's Goons. I mean, I gotta say, going into this upcoming year with NACL and some of the changes that we have to Americas, there's a lot of excitement for the chance that you can play to compete, to continue to promote in this league, but also it is a long break for some of these players, and we have a lot of familiar names and faces, and you know, selfishly really hope that we get some players that end up sticking around. But man, I gotta say, a really impressive performance from Lotus as they earned their chance to stick around in this tournament. I'm excited to talk to them after this break.
A lot of exciting names to see once again, and a lot of exciting new names to see begin to make their name. Sushi and Mixture. It was great to watch them play for the first time, especially for me. But off of that note, we are going to throw it over to that break that was mentioned. When we return, we'll have Cubby on the other side with an interview, one of the members of Lotus.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost.
All right, welcome back to the stream, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited to be joined by someone that I've been really impressed by in the bot lane at support for Lotus. That is Mixture. Mixture, congrats on the 2-0 over Dragoons Goons and keeping your tournament hopes alive. In that series, we got to see you play 2 different roles. You had the Leona with the Ivern, as well as the Janna to kind of help, keep the Rel at bay. What's it like for you to kind of play those 2 different roles in a series like this? And what led you to pick that Janna, especially, who is that hard counter to the Rel, but a pick that we've seen a lot of teams stay away from?
I think mostly it was confidence. When we were against Duckies, we kind of just fumbled upon ourselves, and then we kind of lost the series. But when we were against Goons, like today, we were mega focused. We were like, yeah, we got to win this game. We don't care whatever. We're going to lock in, and then we're just like, just be confident with it, Dark and Draft was just like, Janna looks OP here, just pick the Janna, And then if they're giving us Ivern and Leona, just blind it, they have no counters to it, which they didn't at all, I just go in and then we just murder them at all points of the game. So I think for us, it was just mostly confidence. And when we had confidence, we performed really, really well.
I was with you. I saw Jackson, Rel, and Yona. I was like, hey, you can pick Janna here. It's not that bad. So I was happy to see that you guys had the confidence to pull that one off too. You mentioned Dardoch specifically. Of course, Dardoch has the most experience on your team. What's it been like playing with him for this summer? And what kind of things have you picked up, learned, or how do you think you've really rounded out your game going through OQs and now playing in this tournament this split?
I think for me, mostly I was used to be a mechanical player, and I was never really a macro heavy or like shot calling or anything. Like I would have 0 comms and I would just play my game like I'm like a bot or something. But after Dardoch joins, like he shows me all the mistakes I'm making, and he makes corrections, like talks to me, discusses about draft. I think he's super helpful, as in like development for me as the player, and I think he's one of the nicest persons out there, honestly. Even though he might not have the best reputation out there, but I think, I think he's the GOAT, man. Yeah.
No, it's really cool to hear. I know that Dardoch, of course, did spend some time playing support as well, so I'm sure that he has more insight from that too. I do want to hit on, you being quieter in comms, as you were telling me before we hopped into this that I actually didn't know this. You were a mid lane role swap down to support, so it kind of makes sense. Mid lane being a role that a little bit more micro intensive. What's that change been like? And you said that you feel like you've really come a long way. In what ways do you feel like you've come a long way?
For me, I think mostly when I was playing mid, I was stuck masters. So I was like, something has to change. I can't be playing 500 games a year and then just still be stuck masters playing mid. So I'm like, I got a role swap. I got to see what role fits me the best. And when I insta swap to support, I instantly got challenger. And I felt like it was the perfect role for me, because I could just do whatever I want, really. And it felt really easy. And overall, I think I slowly start learning the lane. I think how to play the game, and with more and more experience, now I start learning how to shot call and how to just perform better as a teammate in the team, and how to function better with my team.
Now, that makes complete sense. Back when I was laddering, when I was competing in college, I was hard stuck like D2, D1, playing every role but support, and then I peaked early season GM. So I very much relate to you, even though I was close, not quite as high of a level. But hey, Mixture, really nice visiting with you. I've been impressed with your play in OQs when I've tuned into the tape. I know I pinged you that throughout the season, but really good to see you performing today on 2 different roles in both those games. Congrats on the 2-0. Before we let you go, just want to give you the floor, the opportunity. Any thank yous or shout outs you'd like to give?
Shout out to my wonderful team. They're absolutely amazing. Like, I couldn't ask for a better team for Lotus. I also shout out to my family. I think they always supported me throughout this journey, so I'm really thankful.
All right. Well, hey, I'm sure you're thankful for the win too. I'll let you get back to it as you guys prep for your upcoming match against the winners of the upcoming best of 3. Fans, stay tuned. We got Pulse versus Ducky Getters coming up right after this break.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost. Welcome back, everyone, to the NACL promotions. Our first series of the day has finished. It's Lotus, who took a slightly, what I would call an upset victory, especially with the way the history of these two teams have played out. Dragoons getting eliminated from promotions.
Yeah, I mean, not something that many of us had on our bingo cards. Dragoons being the first team to drop, but Lotus were the better team of the day. And again, Dardoch Mixture, I think, had an outstanding series with the supporting pieces being really good. And now, to get into our second matchup, it is the other two OQ squads that have been joining us for this promotion tournament. The fan favorite Ducky Getters versus Pulse, another team that has made some waves in these OQs.
Yeah, and both of these teams, you know, going through the playoffs so far, it's Ducky Getters who were coming up from the upper bracket, fell down here. Same thing with Polestar, who lost to Dragoons Goons earlier. So having this showdown coming forward, definitely going to be a banger for this one, especially with all the new faces. And this time, I really mean new faces because a lot more of these players. Last time I knew 8 players. This time I only know about like 3 on these two teams.
Yeah, honestly, a really exciting one for sure. As we're going to start with, I want to start at least with the fan favorites in Ducky Getters, because that is where the majority of these new players exist. As talking with Dr. Calculus, 4 out of the 5 players, first time competing in OQs this split. They joined as friends, and oh boy, have they been making waves. Dr. Calculus said, you know, we feel like we can take on any team that we can legitimately qualify throughout this tournament. And with the play we've seen so far, that is the case. And a lot of their unique play, I really like the reads they have. And part of their gameplay, it's a little bit dated. As Hiccup, she only plays really Enchantress supports. But some of the reads that they have with these Enchantress supports have been legitimately fantastic and really catching a lot of teams off guard between just the drafts, the lane swaps they've been willing to throw at teams. It's been really fun to watch. They've become a fan favorite because of the new faces, their fun logo, and they've been really easy to root for as they bring a lot of flair to the Rift.
Can you match their freak? By the way, a little fun fact. I wanted to know where the name came from. I asked Enthralled. He told me one of Hiccup's lines is, "Let's get the Duckies." So now they're called Ducky Getters. Well, while this team has been practicing, there's been one team they've been scrimming against more so than any other team. And this time, it's going to be their opponents on the Rift. It is Pulse Star.
Well, if that's the case, we'll see if the first draft can somehow be faster than the first draft of the last series, which was lightning speed. That said, some familiar faces here. Especially, I just want to give a shout out to Prismal at support. Prismal, someone that in his time as both a marksman and as a support playing with Array at Golden Guardians, he actually made it to my most valuable prospect ballot with NACL. I know that Prismal is kind of moving his way out of League more so. I know that he has a really unique job opportunity being lined up as of the last time that I talked to him, but someone that always sees the game creatively, very vocal in comms, and I felt like was a really, really strong support. So he's the familiar face. Meanwhile, the new face, Order in the top side, a young top laner that I've been pretty excited about. He's had a couple Korean boot camps where he's made some waves and was actually decent in champs queues. So he's a very strong laner and excited to see if that can continue today.
And looking at some of the results over the qualifiers, just to see how Polestar have done. Finishing 3rd, 4th in the first qualifiers, 5th to 8th in the second one. So they have a lot to really prove right now and right here against this team, the Ducky Getters, as we head into draft for game number 1.
Does look like Sage Wabe is still in for Pulse, not Azog. Just want to make that note as we dive into this one. And we're going to see some unique bans come out against the Ducky Getters. It is the Insta Rengar ban. That has been a specialty of the Ducky Getters, playing some Rengar Ivern, like mid-jungle. I mean, they can like flex Rengar. It's ridiculous what this team is able to do. Meanwhile, big focus on Sage Wabe's champion pool here is 2 marksmen taken away early on to a utility marksman that can be used to really punish things like Enchantress supports early on.
Interesting. I'm looking at one little thing I want to check out right now, because I believe Sage Wabe has only recently been playing on this squad, was listed as a substitute. I'll get more verification on that soon enough. But if that is the case, you know, slotting in, already getting targeted in the first part of this draft right now, as Varus is going to be the next ban that is taken away. And yeah, full marksman across the board for the Ducky Getters as they take away MF as well.
Oh, honestly, I'm really interested to see what they open up with. I mean, they really want something like Kaisa that could be good. I know Enthrall does love that vein, loves the Kog'Maw. that they have been pairing up with the Enchantress supports, playing some old school League, if I do say so myself. But because of all these unique bans being thrown, we do have some really strong picks still on the table. And yeah, the first one being Dr. Calculus's Rumble. I actually really like what they did with this Rumble. The Rumble build, it was a really like tanky, low damage game where it had some healing behind the Rumble in their first series. And he went Leandres, Riftmaker, and Jacques Show. And this Rumble was like drain tanking everyone in the front line, just melting through some of the beefy front line the enemy team had. I thought it was a great read from Dr. Calculus. And I know that talking with Grapes and Hawk, they do feel like this is his strongest champion and someone that got really high marks as a top laner throughout OQs, and also the leader of this team when it comes to draft and some of their takes on the game.
And it's just a strong champion to be one in the very first place, all things considered. The impact that it really does make in the game, especially around those corridors. If you can place the equalizer well, it's a phenomenal champ to have. Frontline will be drafted for Polestar to start us off. They're going to go straight for that Maokai, get some long range engage in there. Also hovering the Corki, which will give you some scaling, and of course the poke of the rockets themselves.
Curiously enough, Asol is up for Ariandel. That was the one win that Pulse found in their first series against Dragoons Goons. And I know everyone that has been the OQ watchers and enjoyers is like, how did that pick get through? Ended up looks to be getting through this draft as well. But I actually really like that draft that Pulse had in game 1 that they did manage to take off at Dragoons Goons. They just had a ton of range packed in. But now, going to be a Ducky Getter special that is likely to be the Rough Beans Galio mid, the tank variety. So against Corki, it does give Corki a free farming lane, but you get push early and a lot of playmaking ability. And the way that they've been using this Rumble Galio again, kind of set up a drain tank frontline. And now they're going to pair up Galio with an Enchantress. So really difficult to get through the Galio. You have a really big magic damage shield, the damage reduction in the W, a Lulu behind it too. And I'm probably going to see a Rumble with like a Conquer kind of drain tank setup yet again. The Ducky Getter is trying to play these longer fights against Team Pulse and lean on a lot of the tankiness that they're likely to have and the extra health bar they're going to have behind that Lulu, which will be piloted by Hiccup.
It's a combo they like a lot, having a very strong, solid tank in that Galio paired with an Enchanter has been working wonders for them so far. Dual Marksman now coming out from Polestar as they grab the Ezreal alongside that Corki. No Marksman so far, so that means that pinch can get that pull can get pinched a little bit more onto the Ducky Getters if Polestar want to go for it.
I can't believe I'm saying this because I do kind of despise this champion. I think it's really bad, especially bot lane, but I would ban Vayne as Vayne's taken away. You can play Vayne into Ezreal. It's doable, especially at this level, but Sagi Wabi going to get hands on the Ezreal. And wondering if they take away the Kog'Maw, just given the pairing that you have with the Lulu. Another favorite of Enthralled. As Jace, a favorite of Hoarders, denied for that top lane matchup. You can go early Hexdrinker, MR, and have a decent time into the Rumble.
I would like to see the Cog, man. It would take me back, especially some of those old days when you see the machine gun Kog'Maw just showing up, raise the puppy, Lulu's there to help you out with it. It could be a cool pick for the Ducky Getters, especially given how awkward a lot of their drafts have been. Unorthodox is the better term, but nope. Can't have fun. Kog'Maw gets batted away by Polestar.
So the other thing, like, there is a lot of focus on Marksman and Enthralled, especially in the second phase of draft, but we have left up a lot of options here for Bio in the jungle. Did manage to pilot the Graves yesterday. I actually think Graves is a decent pick here. If you do want to grab it, speaking of grabs, Blitzcrank taken away from Prismal. It still has a lot of options available to try and bully, push this Lulu around. I prefer not to see the Nautilus, actually. I want to see Prismal maybe go for something like the Rakan. But with the tanks involved, I do think something like Leona could also be really good. Just being able to consistently throw down stuns and always create space in longer fights. That 5-second cooldown get a lot of value on the field.
This front line getting built up even more by Polestar. Be able to take the Cassante over towards the top lane. It'd be a solid front lane to really help out with their Ezreal and Corki and allow them to just get damage in, especially considering how tanky Duckies want to have this front line. But now, instead of the Kog'Maw, it's another pairing that's worked out before. Zeri alongside the Lulu, that will be the bot lane Ducky Getters.
And these fights are getting quite bursty, and I do really like Zeri combined with this Galio frontline. You do need to make some space for Zeri. You want to get in there when people are CC'd, get R on multiple people going down. So ability to really threaten a combo with the Galio now, as Bio We saw this Vi Rumble combo actually be used against Ducky Getters by CCG to find a win in game 1. Turn around, what was a rather successful lane swap, I thought, from Ducky Getters. This time, they're going to have their hands on these champions, and I think Vi is a really solid pick here. She provides some great point-and-click CC against long-range carries, also some tank-busting ability in the front line against Malachi Casante. I feel like this is really sound, and now Prismal, I think it's just Leona here. You just got to pressure.
Still staying on that buy point real quick. Another thing it does is it allows a way for the hero's entrance to get onto the back line.
Yes.
As long as you pop the cease and desist, you will have that back line engaged. So final pick comes in. Going to continue with that front line. It is the Rel for Polestar.
Ability to break some shields, which is actually going to be really valuable for Prismal going up against a Lulu and a Galio. Vi, Rumble too. Like, you get some real value here. I just thought like Leona would be a little bit more pressure against the Lulu. And also, the Q and like being as short of a cooldown as it is can be really effective for just buying some space for the Ezreal and the Corki. But I'm really excited to see if Ducky Getters can get this comp rolling, because it's a little bit different, like where they have their damage with Rough Beans playing this tankier mid. But if this comp goes late, they do a lot of DPS, and it's really on Pulse to keep the space and keep on getting poked out against Ducky Getters.
I like a lot of the way the comp plays out. I mean, the ease of execution once we get into the 5v5 really does revolve around how they use these ultimates. And even before that, you have tools in the early to mid game, because Vi is one of the most active junglers when it comes to just getting ganks across the board. Well, we are finally in game, so go ahead and let us know in Twitch chat who you want to take this. Will it be the Ducky Getters, or will it be Polestar? Reminder, this is an elimination game. If you lose this, you are out of the running to get into the NACL.
30 seconds until minions.
All right, do want to highlight Dr. Calculus's Rumble tech, as it is going to be the Comet for this lane. No Conquer, which we did see in a different game that he piloted this champ. But also, the commonalities from those two games, it was Ghost Flash for his last Rumble game. This time around, it is Flash plus Ignite as Hiccup. Gonna have to preemptively flash. She's gonna sneak her way on out of there. Early scouting ward likely to come down.
Unfortunate. It's an early flash burnt out from Hiccup, so she's not going to be in the most danger, but it is something that Polestar can look to try and punish as long as they do it early enough. I mean, Maokai doesn't really take too much to get these early ganks going. However, the response out of Bio will be heading over towards the enemy red buff side.
This will be scouted. Bio doesn't have access to a sweeper, so curious if Order actually forces Bio off the camp.
Order's staying around there, so
Ariandel's not moving yet.
Yeah, waiting for a little bit of that damage to come in before Hoarder actually does step up. Now there we go, the trade over in the bottom lane. Prismal, Sagewabe just trying to get some harassment.
Very early Ignite dropped, and yeah, we do see Vi actually dipping out of that camp. So Bio, a very delayed start. Will is going to cross and secure the camps on his own, so just down a Raptors, down a camp, and down tempo here for the Vi early on.
That's definitely going to hurt and slow down this Vi quite a bit. Reminder, as I was saying earlier, it is a very fast champion once you are able to get those ganking abilities. You only need Vault Breaker to be an impactful part of the fight. If you don't get a good start early on, it does make you rather squishy and be quite dangerous. This Flash is burnt in the bottom lane, as well as a heal from Hiccup.
That went to the wayside for Prismal. And I think we're playing this like a little bit aggressive. How I'd play this lane is Pulse is actually leaning on the TP of Ezreal and just trying to cheat a decent reset. But we're seeing Enthralled actually with a cold start get away with Highway Murder, and now Prismal with no flash, no Ignite. That's a lot of the pressure that you have against this lane now gone. And if you don't kill the Zeri Lulu lane, you will take off in the game. So it looks like Will's actually wrapped around his clear. He was spotted crossing the Raptors. This is a really weird timer to be bot. And Duckies are going to get caught off guard. Hiccup's no flash.
Yeah, that flash being burnt down, that's something that the Duckies should have played safe around, and it results in Hiccup going down in first blood, picked up by Polestar.
Meanwhile, Ariandel, this is going to be a big taunt. Second passive for Rough Beans. Doesn't have access to the Q, but a really nice trade coming out from the Galio. You can see both wards are burned here by the Duckies bot lane, so just weren't able to help them protect themselves. And props to Will. That's actually a really clever timer from him. He was spotted crossing to his own Raptors. So then to take the camps he did and actually get bot at the timer he did, I would not expect that if I was Ducky Getters. As Bio trying to make sure that no one shows on the true buff. He's going to guess that we'll reset. He will guess correctly and deny this camp from Pulse.
You know, and that's the expectations we should be having of Will, our dear sweet summer child from NACL. What do you know? We're in summer right now. Comes back from the 100 Thieves system, was part of AoE, was part of Mirage as well. And every summer, we've always seen very, very commendable performances out of him.
I think Dr. Calculus might be trying to overheat. He has got a really nice freeze onto Hoarder here. Really trying to find some pressure in this lane. Again, Rumble, very strong champion for Dr. Calculus, who really is some of the brains behind this operation, as if the Doctor doesn't give that away enough.
See another angle being focused outside as Bio is arriving. It's level 3, so quite behind. Still has that cease and desist. Wallbreaker, I mean, will get canceled out by the stun of Prismal, so it's the easiest gank to thwart.
Yeah, well, Loser Crab still has his bot side camps to take. I will say it's going to be important at some point. I think that Bio, like, this early game clear has been a little bit awkward from him. Because for me, the priority for Duckies should actually be to get enthralled at decent pace. Like, he started Cole, and the fact that the lane is where it is fine, but you're going up against a TP Ezreal, who at this point can really kind of keep the pressure down. Prismal resetting here is actually going to be what gives Duckies a free base. I think that's maybe a bit of an oops. I feel like keeping the pressure here for Pulse was big, but now Zeri does get a freebie, so no need for Bio to actually come check in on this lane. And this base for Zeri should be rather nice, as we are up. Never mind. It's enough. It's canceled.
Man, are you kidding me?
Okay, that's enough.
By himself puts on the pressure and won't allow the Duckies to find a back in the bottom lane. And this is so much pressure onto them now, Cubby.
Yeah, that's a cannon wave. They're stuck. Prismal's he's coming.
Oh no, Prismal wants to find the kill. Enthralled has flash, but Hiccup has to burn hers, and even that is not enough.
I do think there was an angle there for Enthralled to actually flash auto and kill Sage Wabi and actually trade it out. So a bit of a missed opportunity there on the back half for Enthralled. But a really nice play from Sage Wabi to stop those bases. That was a cannon wave, the perfect time to base if you are Enthralled. They feel pressured to stick around and in that lane where it's minions are alive for longer. Prismal makes his way back bot, uses the Ignite, secures a second kill for the Ezreal. Will be traded out for the Grubs, but I think Pulse are pretty happy with where things are at early on.
And Bio's not going to get that much. It's just one Grub. Hoarder shows up. It's the nightmare of what happened on the red buff earlier, and Bio's forced to just get away.
I mean, props to Pulse and Hoarder. I know that Hoarder is down a little bit in this lane. That is somewhat expected. It's a really good base timer for Dr. Calculus being out with the Leandries. But, man, I mean, Bio has, like, been at least tried to be a set behind, which I appreciate. And I don't think the Maokai is going to get anything from this, but this one's going to make his way into at least support taking away some of these camps on the bot side, which is at least a nice consolation prize. He's not going to get a red buff just because of how awkward the early game timers were. Usually you get second red buff like spawning around this time. You can deny it. Not the case this time around, so Will only gets the Raptors, but I do appreciate some of the ideas that Pulse have. I know I've credited Duckies, just they play Enchantress bot lane or supports, and they have very different meta reads, but I think the reads that Pulse has had on this game, they have a small lead. I think they've been doing a nice job.
It's smart the way they utilize certain things. Like, for example, you were mentioning Hoarder showing up down there. Yeah. It really meant a lot for Will to just freely pull the dragon. It's going to be no issue. You're not really contested. You have eyes on where this Vi is. Now, speaking of this Vi, I mean, clearing over towards the bottom side, the golems are going to be up, so that should be the next clear, but might be able to put some attention over here. The only problem is you still want that level 6 for Bio for these for the assist and desist to come online.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple camps away still. I want to shout out Enthralled. I know that we're not, you're
actually,
not familiar with
6.
All the players, that are here. I actually became familiar with Enthralled. We were talking a lot about UST in the last game. The 5th member that wasn't from the back-to-back squad, that was one of the members who was consistent, actually was Shogo, of course, at bot lane. The first time I saw Enthralled, he got 3 games of Varus and actually toppled Shogo in C-Ball. Now he's trying to go. Bio doesn't want to burn his flash.
Yeah, lightning crash onto Prismal, hops right over the wall. Flash onto Sage Wabe. Still doesn't have the damage to really clean it up. True Shot Barrage goes out. Sidestep coming out from Enthralled, but here comes Rough Beans, and the cease and desist finds Sage Wabe underneath the tower. 100 health remains, fighting for his life. He will be able to score one right back, but 3 members are circling his tower. He's not long for this world as Beans comes right after him. It's Enthralled who finds the shutdown.
A big shutdown onto this Zeri as Duckies managed to turn around this bot lane. It is not for free, though, as Ariandel going to get a lot of free time on mid, but Dr. Calculus is actually walking down as we do dive into a replay, and Enthralled. Man, I mean, the confidence of Enthralled to step up. Again, when I was first, saw Enthralled play, he 3-0'd Shogo on 3 games of Varus, where he was fantastic in that series. See him step up on the Zeri. He loves to play those champs where you have to step up. You are empowered by the Enchantress. Bring up Enthralled has worked out really well. Got the Sage Wabe, who, of course, subbing in for this tournament. Really liked the ward drop, too, to make sure he could connect with that auto on Vi, even if Bio did not flash. Bio flashed just a wee bit late and was still in range for the kill as Sage Wabe does trade one out. But shutdown going over to Zeri is going to feel really good as this Goldie has now disappeared. But Enthralled, oh no!
Ooh. Okay. Not in the worst danger until the Blast Plant shows up. Here comes the hero's entrance. He might have just forfeited another player. The 3 Polestar units dancing around right now. I mean, Hiccup is there, so there's some protection.
Here comes Bio.
Be able to get that shielding. Bio's on the side, but never mind. Bio's not that strong right now. They're still going to take an attempt for it to take down Will. Will so close to falling. One more auto comes through. It's the kill, but Bio falls immediately after. Hiccup, she has to flash over the wall to survive. Drawn out engage ultimately goes Polestar's way.
Yeah, Oopsie's coming out here for the Duckies, and that flash on Lulu being down, I think, behind Pulse, that is where I'm putting all of my attention next. How can I punish that and remove Lulu from the map? More kills going over to Ezreal, too. If Ezreal gets ahead of the curve, again, poking out Duckies will be big. Duckies, they need to find a way to close the gap and stay in range to really make their comp work. So I think the lead that we have on Sage Wabe early on, very significant here for Pulse.
Significant because both marksmen are doing incredibly well right now. You can see them at the top. Now Cease and Desist going to be used on Will in the jungle, paired up with that equalizer. It will burn this forest down, and Dr. Calculus gets the kill.
Yeah, Dr. Calculus, he's seeing red, takes the red buff himself. Will open up a 6th grub opener for Duckies, so nice consolation prize for them still. Where the gold is at for Pulse, I think is really good. I think that the Corki Ezreal on this 2 item, they really have to hit it hard to make sure that they are able to just out DPS what Ducky is going to be throwing at them. Because the Ducky is like, this Galio gets so tanky and powered by Lulu as well as Sage Wabe goes in. Enthralled.
Enthralled looking for the side step. Wants to take down Sage Wabe. Enthralled will find the outplay and is not content with 1 kill. It's a double for Enthralled.
The cleanse and the sidestep on the True Shot barrage is enough to find the double kill for the Zeri Lulu. And why I was talking about the 2 item spikes for Corki and Ezreal being so important is that if Lulu Zeri gets online, gets going, the amount of damage that this duo can do and the space they're going to be given by the Duckies comp is significant. Enthralled each time he's been set behind. Him and Hiccup have found a way to bounce back as that was a huge 2v2 for Duckies in the bot lane.
So significant. I spoke with Enthralled before the game, and the impression I got was this is not the most confident player. Said, I don't feel like I deserve to be promoted, but my teammates have put in the work. I'm going to do it for them. My word, man, with plays like that, you got to put more respect on your own name, Enthralled.
I mean, honestly, I appreciate Enthralled being humble. I know that he found the 3-0 against Shogo in C-Ball, which was really big, but he was behind in a couple of those games. He did really serve his role. He played it really well on the Varus, but Enthralled is a player that I really feel like is still scaling at the marksman position. And I mean, you gotta put more confidence in your name, though. Like, this is a team where you are playing pretty much strictly Enchantresses at support. You are the focus of a lot of those shields, and you have to find the time, the space to step up. Enthralled did so there, and now has that static shiv, has beaten Ezreal to that first item. The amount of push and pressure now that will come out from this bot lane is going to be significant, and Duckies can find a lead off of this. As Bio actually hovering bot. Doesn't look like Bio's going for a play. Just want to get the reset for Enthralled, but curious if we actually have a swap here for the Rift Herald coming in from Duckies. I'd like that a lot. Their strength is in their bot lane. I'd love to see them be sent top, and it looks like that's the play.
4 minutes, 20 seconds before Dragon comes up, so let's not bother with that side of the map. Let's go top-sided, sending Enthralled and Hiccup into that direction for the lane swap. As you said, so far, they really are showing up in this bottom lane. After what was a very rough early game for Hiccup, you know, that flash being jumped on time and time again. The cooldown being burnt means a lot for Enthralled to still find the comeback in this bot lane.
Yeah, again, part of the matchup. Just Lulu versus Rel, those first few levels, they do suck. Prismal, though, I don't think got enough from that lead, and of course, did see them turn it around later on. That whole start for Enthralled, too. It's away with the greed, as that has already been popped. I mean, he's close to finding that Runan's already. I mean, he's pretty much halfway there. And Duckies, they want to make some more plays. Bio's here.
Going right after the sweet summer child. Will find his escape. Doesn't have to burn his flash, but did have to burn the ultimate. So big engage tool is down for Polestar.
Yeah, Will did answer, though, with an ult of his own, and Sagawabe dropped the True Shot Barrage. So frankly, I think that's a trade up for Duckies, as they have hit this Herald hit hard. Keep in mind, this flop from Pulse, they actually put their bot lane mid. They still have Porter on the top side, so if Enthralled and Hiccup do retreat towards there, this is a team with 6 grubs, so if they are able to overload side lanes, they weren't able to do so in time for plates, but if each team is hitting a turret, it will be Duckies that are outpacing what Pulse are able to put down.
It's not going to be the strongest side laning team, but if they are able to get those sieges, it does matter a lot. For Dr. Calculus, he's getting dive underneath the tower. We'll put down the equalizer. Not the best placement of it to find any vengeance. Turret goes down in the mid lane. We're going to find one in the bottom lane as well for Polestar.
Yeah, I can understand the play on the Dr. Calculus. It was an overheat that really opened up that window for Prismal to find, which was very good. And despite having those 6 grubs, it is Duckies that are on the back half of making plays. Steve Enthralled wants to push for this. You have another W off, it's doable.
Much more careful about this, because you don't pick your fight at the right time, it can be the end of you. You can see the polymorph going through. That's one of the things Lulu is so good at, just stopping a lot of these offensive moves in their face and letting Enthralled just pick them off.
I do want to shout out Hiccup, too. She had some really clutch polymorphs in the game she got Lulu. It was against Mixture Zamumu. Like, denied a couple of those Curse of the Sad Mummies coming through entirely, as Duckies did a really nice job locking that pick up on that first series where they did topple Lotus. So, yeah, again, definitely something to look out for, as it looks to be an RFC. So, not the Hurricane coming out from Zeri, I must say. Usually we just see Shiv Hurricane. I would have preferred the Hurricane this game, given that I think you can get some value against the Malachi, Sante, Rel. You know, those are melees, but Enthralled going to try and reach the back line, I guess, a little bit more with that RFC.
So as this game has gone on so far, it's been a bumpy road when it comes to the gold. Over the last couple of minutes, it's Polestar who picked up 2 back-to-back towers, and that's what got them into this slight lead just now. Keep in mind, earlier it was Ducky Getters who were taking a lot of these fights. Now looking for another one. Will be Enthralled, who's stepping up into the face of Polestar. Priority in the mid lane for the Ducky Getters as they bring Shelly right into the tower.
Herald dropped early, but Pulse are forced to respond. They drop the TP, they drop the Nature's Grasp.
That's Rough Beams, the first one getting caught out by it. Will absorb it for his team as Enthralled use the Lightning Crash, looking for Prismal. Prismal has to bail instantly. Porter has an angle with the Q3 primed up, but doesn't get it onto Enthralled. Now Ariandel, Valkyries away from the Zeri, and the tower falls.
Decent movement there from Enthralled, able to keep that Lightning Crash going for the majority of the duration. They do force off Pulse. It's a little bit of a late reset, but Hex Portals are on the Rift, so a chance to maybe still contest here. Oh, TP used.
To still fight. Teleport's being channeled in. 3 members of the Duckies are surrounding Ariandel. He teleported to his demise. Now Rough Beans walking forward with the equalizer on the choke point, burning down this damn forest. Will is feeling the pain. Will recall, and the Duckies get priority on Drake.
Yeah, the Duckies, you know, they like to float on top of the water in the bathtub. That TP was pretty easy to push Ariandel under the water in the bathtub, as a little bit of bullying came through on the Rift. Porky falls. The rumble damage was enough to push Pulse out of the objective. Sagawabe just going to fish for a steal. True Shot Barrage will not come through, as the first dragon of the game is secured for Duckies, and they have a gold lead now.
I see why Kangas was freaking out and saying how much he loves this team, how much he loves to cast them. They are just wild, both the drafts and the level of play they're able to execute on. Big blunder right there for Ariandel to use that teleport. It does give Duckies a lot back, but still, it's only going to be about a 1k lead, and it stops the dragon stacking, more importantly, of Polestar.
Yeah, I actually want to shout out, again, this unique read. Like, I know it's different, but I actually think the Duckies have a pretty good grasp of it. This is pretty much led by the team and Dr. Calculus, and they said they were drawing inspiration, actually, from Reckless in LCK Challengers League, where they have a Fearless format as well, and Reckless, of course, specializes on the Sentence and other enchanted picks. We get a hold of it yet again as Ariandel is in trouble by Rumble Combo coming in.
What are you doing here, man? This is not your side of the map. You're on the wrong lawn. He will still try and get a kill back. He was so close so far.
Now you got to move Galio on the top side. Oh, that's
all right. That's a nice all-out right there. Yep. Pulls him into 4 members. Easy kill on the Rough Beans, so as above, so below. It's opposite reactions, mid for mid.
Still first on the play, though, for Duckies, and they have 6 grubs, so if they want to push any of these lanes through, they will have access to a turret. Bot lane turret's so low where I feel like you could walk up, spawn the grubs, and might be able to take it, but not going to be the case. As actually Dr. Calculus is going to give it Enthralled this lane, so... Enthralled, you know, sounds like from when you talk to him, doesn't have the most confidence in himself, but the leader in Dr. Calculus has a lot of confidence in him, understanding that resources in this area, best place for those resources to be, and gonna give Enthralled this lane to farm the long lane, and should be able to knock down the turret as well, as Pulse have no access to TPs.
I think this is the most excited I've been about some of the new players that we're seeing in the promotion
tournament.
Dude,
this is cool.
I mean, like, we saw Mixture from the last series. New face for me, looked phenomenal, and now Enthralled popping off 4-1-1 on the Zeri. Some of the new talent waiting in the wings, man. It's pretty exciting now. Rough Beans spot out from Sage Wabe as well as Prismal, but that is a Galio going to tank build, so not going to have the damage to kill him.
Yeah, and a Rumble right behind him, too. Going to be okay, as Duckies will be able to defend this top outer turret from falling, so they end up trading up. And yeah, I mean, if you guys are at home, like, this is truly just the friends in a dream coming together for Duckies. Like, again, Dr. Calculus, before this match, said, hey, we have 4 completely new players to OQs, and we're just all friends. We went in with no expectations, but now, like, they actually feel like they can beat anyone and everyone in this tournament, as the confidence they picked up from just finding success on their own. And again, this unique read they have, I really feel like it's advantageous. The item changes that have been being made for the entire season has really indexed more and more into opening up and bringing back Enchantress supports into the meta. We have not seen that exist at all. But even on this patch, like Warmogs being nerfed so that the threshold is higher, that was like one way that kind of kept Enchantress supports out, because even if you just took Harass, you just go heal it back up, and then Enchantress would lose tools. You got a pause, and Enthralled are going to get jumped on.
There we go. Enthralled trying to get away. Too early on the cleanse. That's a shutdown picked up. That's pretty significant, too, because that went over to Sage Wabe. 6-2-2 has most of the econ for Polestar.
Yeah, Hiccup and Bio retreating to the top outer turret. Hiccup desync there with Enthralled. Lulu, Zeri not on top of each other. That will be enough to crack open this Baron. It's at half. This is a tough fight for Duckies. They're down their most important member.
How do they pull this off? They still have the equalizer. This is technically a choke point. There's a lot of zone control that the Duckies can try and pop in, and here we go. Bio's looking to go in. Bio's going for the steal! Oh, will be able to secure it, and now Polestar have a chance to fight back as Rough Beans by himself can't even find Sage Wabe. Will give his life in the process. It's a double kill picked up by Ariandel, and the Baron call successful for Polestar.
Good call from Pulse, and much needed in this back and forth game. Oh, okay, we're gonna hide that real quick. Yeah, I mean, again, this is a 4v5, and Thrall, the most important member, is down. I think the big thing, Dr. Calculus overheats early into the fight, so can't chain the Vi ult, can't chain the Galio ult with the ult of his own, the Equalizer. Yes, it's dropped, but it's not fantastic. Rough Beans ends up getting stuck in the pit as he followed up Bio, and both fall to their demise. Important that Corki is able to pick up some of that gold in the fight, too, as that 2-item spike and change has now been reached by Ariandel and by Sage Wabe. So this Ezreal Corki will hit very hard in the upcoming fights, and this gold lead, I mean, that's a pretty big swing that we just had on the Rift there.
I mean, I give a lot of credit to Will. It was that setup in the mid lane to pick off Enthralled that started this whole breath of life for Polestar, and now on the opposite end is Bio. Doesn't realize Will's right behind him. True Shot Barrage lands right onto this Vi. How do you escape? Cease and desist is not enough. A killing spree picked up by Ariandel.
I really appreciate Pulse actually walking past the waves here. Look at the ults for Ducky Getters. Equalizer just came off cooldown. Bio did not have access to his ult. Rough Beans, no ult. If they fight with ults down, that's really where Ezreal Corki can succeed, becomes so valuable, and they're going to continue to play. Prismal, nice predict, finds the shield off of Rough Beans, and now he's in trouble.
I mean, this is the big tanky Galio as the equalizer comes down. Ariandel's going to take a bit of damage right there. It gets turned around as the flamethrower of Dr. Calculus kills Prismal.
Dragon's up. Bio's up in a couple seconds. They're going to have a man advantage. Equalizer is a big cooldown used, but that was the only ult used by Ducky Getters. So I think a Dragon start here might be a little bit dangerous for Pulse. We'll see if Duckies want the fight. Quarter holding the line.
1-on-3, though, does get taunted, pulled back in. Looking for an angle to get out of this one. Will flash right over the wall. Sees an assist, followed through by Bio. Secures the kill.
Watch Enthralled,
but
watch Enthralled.
Polestar have secured the Dragon. Now looking for their way out of this. Enthralled doesn't get the proper angle, but Dr. Calculus, however, and Rough Beans do have a way into this as Ariandel uses the Valkyrie, gets out of the grasp of Enthralled. Now Enthralled dancing around between those Mystic shots. Prismal being a distraction. A couple more shots go in, and Polestar find their disengage.
Appreciate Duckies at least looking there. Couldn't find a lot, and Enthralled, importantly, did burn that flash on the offensive. That's a tool that will be missing now that Pulse are going to look to punish.
So with that, Polestar get the Dragon stacking back into their favor. They're denied the third one of the game. We'll be able to get that fourth one and now set up at Dragon Soul Point.
Still, I feel like this Baron hasn't really been great. Like, you can see the initial pull that was picked up when Baron was started was good, but from there, Pulse actually didn't really drive the lead home. Duckies were able to play pretty good defense as Pulse overextended on the bot side. And I still really favor the scaling of the Duckies comp. Like, you have this Lulu. Galio in the front line makes so much sense to me. Rumble does so much damage throughout the game. So I think the Duckies can still find a win here. They just really need to make sure they're taking out the two-threat comp of Pulse, as we have Rough Beans pushing really far forward. Ariandel is down flash, so that will be something that Duckies are looking for themselves, much like Enthralled being down flash is going to be the focus for Pulse.
The Duckies are hunting down everyone. You can see the Glitter Lance. It does provide a slow. Order not in the most danger. You really needed that cease and desist to come through after, but that would have been a big commitment onto Cassante. 3 minutes before we have our next drag. 2 minutes before the Baron spawns. It's 2.6k in the favor of Pulse right now.
Keep in mind, any fight where we've seen Enthralled be able to function for Duckies, it has been a win. So I think we really just keep our eyes on Enthralled. Has the most goals for the Duckies as Pulse. I think wisely, they actually don't... Bio did focus face out. That Mystic shot did not connect. Decent info here for Duckies as Pulse, they're sapling away from being able to find info themselves in this bot side embankment rush as Duckies will hit the wave, clear that one for themselves. Also going to respond to Corki pushing out the bot wave, and we'll see if that ends up being the focus. So seeing if Dr. Calculus wants to take that portal over. Not the case. Both of our teams kind of resetting and regrouping. Again, I do think the time does favor Duckies as this Zeri Lulu. We've seen what this combo can do, and it's rather lethal.
For Polestar to continue the way things are going right now, I mean, it's pretty simple and yet pretty hard at the same time. Just take down Enthralled, find him, hunt him down. Suddenly all the damage is eliminated from the side of the Ducky Getters. And that window of opportunity is still kind of available. That flash will be down around half its cooldown right now. So if any more picks can be found onto Enthralled, it really does reap so many benefits for Polestar.
Yeah, I think it's like Pen being picked up by Dr. Calculus again could be really big. This Rumble being that bonus damage threat moving forward. Of course, both swapped a little bit. Damage coming from Dr. Calculus's Rumble on the top side, with Galio being that big tanky front line, and some abyssal maxing going on with the abyssal mask. Something that I always really like to see. Importantly, Moonstone has been completed by the Lulu too. And if you don't remove Lulu from these fights, just the overall value that you get from the echoes, from the Moonstone, we've seen it on Senna, who can abuse it best, but we've also seen Hiccup do it with Zeri. This is kind of a big scaling element that I was hinting at, is having access to this Enchantress. If your first round of spells, your shotgun engage isn't strong from Pulse, they will fall behind as the fights get longer and longer.
Enchantress means more shields. Of course, you have that ultimate which can stifle some of the engages if you are able to get onto the back.
I love Rough Beans just eating the double saps with his shield. Who cares about Leandri's, man? Just give me those saps, I'll take him. You got a Lulu shield to boot as well, no worries.
Just flex the pecs, man. Bounce it right off.
Yeah. Hoarder did get bot lane in very deep. Keep in mind, Dr. Calculus has no TP, so this might be a little bit of a window for Pulse. Look, they're actually on the top side, and we might be in trouble here as Hoarder. He's being hunted.
Hoarder We'll meet up with Rough Beans, but you're saying he's being hunted. It looks like he's the one doing the hunting right now. Now Baron has been started up. Prismal is looking to run interference. 7k health remains.
This is gone.
They're still so far away. There's no way they actually get to this. So Polestar, they sneak up Baron. Ducky Getters are going to look for the fight on the back end, as so far Rough Beans, the first one to be in the front line, running through is Prismal. Enthralled, still unchecked thus far. Here comes the Hero's Entrance, able to find another knockup, but the tanky boys are absorbing their damage now. Enthralled gets kill number 1. Kill number 2 picked up. It's Dr. Calculus who's burning him down. Going after the tree. Bio gets it. And Dr. Calculus gets a triple kill. You got the Baron. Now let's take it right off the map. Sagewabe goes for the counter engage onto Dr. Calculus. Enthralled has to jump right in to get rid of the rest of these Baron buffs, but that's exactly what he's gonna do. He's going for the chase onto Sagewabe. Teleport comes out, and that's his escape.
Part of the reason that gamble was able to be successful for Pulse is the fact they were on Hex Soul Point. So I really think Duckies were prioritizing getting Prio on Dragon, just like 15 seconds away from spawning by the time Baron's taken down. But then in the post fight, no one goes on to Enthralled. It's Prismal who tries to go for the engage. It is wonderfully flashed out by Enthralled, and the space this Galio is able to create. We all went for Hiccup. Hiccup was able to flash and escape Hoarder in all-out mode, and Enthralled just untouched in this fight, able to rip through everyone. I know it's Dr. Calculus getting the triple kill, but Enthralled was really just shredding the front line of Pulse. No chance for Pulse in that fight, and I really feel like the scaling for Ducky Getters at this point has kicked in, as it looks like Lulu died. I'm not sure how that happened. We can get an update from our observers. That'd be great, but yeah, that hurts. Maokai ult coming out, gonna try and pressure Rough Beans. He's too tanky for it to matter. But they will get the power to have.
I hope we do get a replay of that, because apparently Sagewabe threw out an ult from base, and that's what got hit.
Oh, nice.
Excellent moves like that. Here comes Jesus on the back line looking for Sagewabe, but he's by himself. Out comes the equalizer, though. Enthralled is caught. Enthralled is caught! He falls to Sagewabe. Hero's Entrance comes in, but you can't be a hero when your damsel's already dead. Rough Beans falls for the double kill to Sagewabe, and suddenly Polestar are on the death march.
It really feels like Duckies had the edge in this game, but the 2 moments where Hiccup is separated from the Zeri, the Zeri falls, and the 2 kills on the Zeri is going to be enough to make this one for Pulse.
Going straight for the end right now. Both Nexus Towers under attack. Last breath coming out from Ducky Getters. Dr. Calculus brings the flamethrower, will overheat right after. He's got nothing else in the gas tank, and neither do the Ducky Getters, as they'll fall in game number 1.
I mean, a ballsy Baron call from Pulse. Sagewabe ended up being huge in this game. 14-2-5, stepping up as a sub. That's massive. Yeah. But I really felt like the story, like, I can't believe he snuck up with that many kills, because it felt like the story was enthralled on the Zeri. If this Zeri was allowed to function, allowed to operate in team fights, we saw Duckies win every fight where that was the case. But the 2 times that Lulu was separated from Zeri, Pulse were able to take Enthralled off the map, and when he was gone, that comp could not function.
Yeah, you had Will, who got the first one in the mid lane. That is what really did turn that entire game around, because it was Polestar realizing that when Enthralled's gone, suddenly you have tempo to take whatever you want on the map, and so many brilliant plays utilized by Polestar to leverage themselves into situations where, like that Baron that we had at the very end, they were able to just take it with ease.
Yeah, I gotta say, I gotta give Sagewabe like player of the game there. I know that, like, I felt like he was behind. Like, they did die in that 2v2, which was kind of poor. But Sagewabe, I mean, in the end, he ends up coming up huge in the back half of this game. Again, really stepping up as a sub. This is something that, I mean, it kind of stinks to go into the promotion tournament with a sub, not be able to play with Azog, who was stepping up for, I believe, Mobility, who was on this squad earlier on. But Sagewabe putting up a huge Ezreal game, helping Pulse overcome Ducky Getters. And now Ducky Getters going to have to bounce back in this series. They want to keep their hopes alive.
See, it's all these new names, man. They just keep bringing it. Well, I was excited about Enthralled on the Ducky Getters. Now suddenly Polestar, Sagewabe showing up. This is great stuff, man. A lot of our new talent. They're hungry to get into the NACL, and it really does show. So off of that note, we're going to throw it over to short break while we get ready for game number 2 between Ducky Getters and Polestar.
Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost. Welcome back, everyone, to the NACL Promotions. Game number one now finished between the Ducky Getters and Polestar. It was Polestar with very, very accurate aiming onto Enthrall to take him out. It's fights that took over the series to take this game number one, Kobe.
Yeah, it was like if you ever played Pulse from Rainbow Six Siege, you can track heartbeats. And I feel like they just were tracking Enthrall's heartbeat. And then when they only saw one instead of two, they pulled the trigger, and that's how they found the win. As taking a look at this one. Again, this is a really close game. I feel like the two picks, like the first spike you see is the first pick onto Enthralled, and the second spike you see is the second pick onto Enthralled. Besides that, Duckies were able to play out their comp really well. I do feel like they were able to hold the line. It was pretty strong, but just weren't able to find the win. As the two moments that the Zeri Lulu were split up were the two moments that Pulse found that really defined this game.
Yeah, if it wasn't picking off Hiccup, it was picking off Enthralled and really making sure that they weren't going to be a factor into these team fights, and that's most of your gold now gone. I mean, Dr. Calculus still had a pretty good performance, but just wasn't the primary carry of this composition. So overall, a great display coming out from Polestar, especially Sage Wabe. I got to give him a lot of credit because the kills, he was just sneaking up, and we didn't even really notice just how well he was doing until he was already burying the Ducky Getters.
Yeah, I mean, I think each team, it's kind of fun seeing like the different identities that we had too, Desterux. Obviously, Pole's playing a lot more standard, but Ducky Getters having their own unique read as always. Were, I think, almost able to make it work. Ended up being a close one, and I'm curious to see what kind of unique read we see in the next one, as everyone's refusing to really take away Hiccup's Enchantresses. So, obviously, off the board, but I think the Milio comps, like Milio's actually a pick that has been really re-emerging in this OQ. That I think is very playable, pretty strong. We've seen the Karma as well, with like the Senna pairing some lane swaps. So it's really interesting to see what Hiccup does pull out next, and how we are able to end up abusing that for Ducky Getters.
That's the post-game breakdown presented by The Real Cost. I have some big concerns for the Ducky Getters coming into this one, because when you talked with them, Cubby, one of the things they did highlight was their Galio plus Enchanter combo. Game number 1, they used it, and it lost. It's now off the table because this is a fearless draft, so it means it's banned away.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind the draft for them. I feel like they had some strong tools. They had a lot of ways to make space for Zeri, but again, just the execution wasn't there. But, you know, they don't have access to Maokai, Corki, Ezreal either, who are very OP picks. I hate Maokai. The champion's so busted, and yet he gets through in every draft. He's just way too broken. But yeah, looks like the attention being thrown at Sage Wabe again. They're really trying to take away some of these utility marksmen from Sage Wabe and just forcing the stub onto carries. I guess they feel like Enthralled can really win those matchups in the bot lane. Appears to be the approach from Ducky Getters going into the series.
Curious about that draft man. Never mind. Okay, we're still going forward. I just completely mixed up the order onto it. Thought they lost a ban. But next ban coming out, still going to be jungle focused right now. Rengar, as well as the brand taken away. So we're going after Bio this time.
Yeah, we've got the best of 5 Fearless getting in your head here for NACL.
It really is.
Losing bans. Not
a lot of best of 5s over there.
Yeah, not going to quite hit that one yet here. So we got best of 3s today. But hey, those will be coming in the tournament as we move throughout this bracket.
So one more ban to come out of the Ducky Getters. See if they continue going after Sage Wabe. No, it'll be Ariandel's Asol that they choose to ban away.
Yeah, that pick did slip through the last draft, this time taking it away. Wondering if we have a matchup that really favors Asol being taken in the mid lane now for Rough Beans. This Rough Beans likes the Ziggs, likes deploying the tanks. And Ducky Getters, I think another big pick for them is Senna. Actually, that's still on the board, so we'll see if that ends up being the approach. But did tease the Ziggs. We have seen Rough Beans pull it out already in this tournament, and looks to be the lock-in here.
So having the Ziggs, especially if they take it in the mid lane, that can be a lot of push power. It could be a lot of poke power as well that you have to deal with Polestar. So see what they choose to go with to try and handle this one. I mean, again, a lot of those big picks for Ducky Getters is taken off the table. But Polestar, you did say, do like to draft a little bit more traditional. So with that, still have a lot that they can try and flex around. And what it does seem to be is the misfortune for the R1.
Now, I'm curious for Enthralled, what the choice ends up being, because I saw Enthralled in this tournament. They actually pulled out the Lucian Milio into MF. I actually really like Lucian into MF. I feel like it's kind of been a forgotten matchup. You just get out a lot of burst damage. And pressure MF. Also, you have a couple abilities that can really help keep the Strut passive off of MF. So even with Jarvan being locked in, that is a lot of pressure down towards the Ziggs, but the value of something like a Lucian does really go up here if that's going to be the case. That said, Jarvan, that being blinded, not really used to seeing that. However, into, I think Hiccup especially, Jarvan's really good at pressuring Enchantresses, especially if you're down flash. So I don't mind that. And the Cataclysm plus the MF. It's not quite the hot pot combo when you get J4 Rumble, but I'd say it's pretty close as it's a good setup for bullet time.
It's still a wombo combo nonetheless, and especially if those flashes are down, that is when you are just dead to rights. That is when you're doomed. So one setup there for Wombo, for Polestar. The response for the Ducky Getters going to be the Scorpion locked in as they choose to go for the Skarner. And what you were alluding to a little bit earlier, Cubby, we've been waiting for it. The Senna now getting hovered for the Ducky Getters.
Yeah, I will say a bit of flexibility here for the Ducky Getters, as I'm I assume the Scorpion's going to go into the jungle. We've really only seen Jungle Skarner, which I think is really sound. Also, Cataclysm brings some more walls for you to play with. Rather nice. Skarner with the E. I would not love the Azir pick here, and I know LS would be molding. I know it's a good one for Ariandel, but Ziggs into Azir. This is likely going to be a Ziggs mid. And Ziggs, for me, is a thematic counter into Azir. We've seen APA prove this. Azir, if you end up going in and going for the shuffle, if you do eat a Ziggs combo, getting through that minefield, the satchel charge, which can even cancel that, it is really big. So range advantage already being shown here for Ducky Getters. We have some good ways to close the gap as Pulse, but a lot of scaling and a lot of range for Ducky Getters. So they can really build off this as we get through the draft.
I feel like Polestar, it's really just see hero, blow them up as fast as humanly possible. So maybe that's going to be the case when they choose to go after the Ziggs, but it's all about timing, because you said those minefields can absolutely ruin it. Next man to come in, as we look at how the draft is shaped up so far, they're taking away the Vayne, they're taking away the Jax, so it's going to be a top lane focus in these next couple bans.
Yeah, I'm curious if they actually ban the Jace too, as Jace could really help kind of match some of this poke, and I think it's decently valuable. And also a specialty of Hoarder from his time in solo queue was banned in the last game as well. So it might be another option here for Ducky Getters, but of course, I'm pretty confident that Ziggs is going mid now. Just really wondering like what else they want to take away. Still no focus going down onto Hiccup. We have seen the Senna mostly being in the hands of the Senna's like being played by Enthralled a little bit. We've seen the Senna Karma be busted out by this team with Enthralled playing the Senna. I've also seen, I think I saw Enthralled on Janna even at some point. Like Ducky Getters play some crazy stuff. So that said, I do like the Lucian ban. I know I was talking about it earlier on. So I think that's a good one. And Blitzcrank going to continue to be denied from Prismal.
Just curious, looking at the match history of Hiccup, no Senna games, just mostly the focus on 2 Enchantresses. So
yeah,
have been mentioned earlier. So the most likely position this does go is onto Enthralled. I don't see it being flexed to that direction. We're talking about the top laners a little bit earlier that did get banned away, leaving one big one up, and that is going to be Camille. So this is something that can be a big threat when it comes to diving into some of these champions you want, but it can also be blundered when diving into some of these champions.
I don't love this pick. Renekton's up. Renekton destroys Camille in lane, and I think Renekton's a really good bridge for what Ducky Getters want for the rest of the game. So if I'm Dr. Calculus, I would slam Renekton here and just find my pairing with Senna. Do I want Seraphine? Do I want Karma? You can see even Order hovering that Renekton before Camille. He kind of knew that one was coming. I think this is exactly what Ducky Getters want for their comp, being a bridge for everything else they have.
I think they have a lot of stuff to work with, and that's going to counter what Polestar have gone with. I mean, we already talked about the terrain and how that interacts with Cataclysm, but this would be an interesting final pick to go through. I mean,
I would love it thematically.
Okay, we have the Senna in the bot lane, so this allows for a little bit of a flex of both the Vigar and the Ziggs. But we can take it. Oh God, we're taking it. We're going with the Vigar, man.
We're so base, Ducky Getters. Oh my God, like we're playing. Look at how much the Cage is good against. You can pressure MF.
Yeah.
She stands still for the bullet time. The J4, the flag and drag, the Cage wins. Camille hookshot, the Cage wins. Azir, the Cage wins. Vigar's a old school counter to Azir too. Back when like Everfrost was really big. I love how Ducky Getters are so willing to play thematic counters as a team and then just figure out how to make it work on the Rift. As we see another changeup coming in. It's Camille's support with Olaf top. And Olaf, again, thematically counters everything we have here. It's a really low damage bursty team for Ducky Getters. Olaf loves this in the comp. I love all the change-ups that we have coming through here from Pulse. I think this is a really good flex pick from them to put Camille bot, put a lot of pressure on the Senna and the Ziggs. I honestly love the curveballs that each of our teams threw at this draft.
I was not ready for this, Cubby. I was not ready for this whatsoever. We felt like we knew what the lane assignments were, and they just switch up on a dime. Camille into the bottom lane, Olaf into the top, and yeah, I really love the fact that you now have the Ragnarok to deal with stuff like, for example, that Cage. You were saying it stops everyone. Ragnarok doesn't care. He's going to run right through, start throwing those axes.
Okay, Olaf this game, Thanos. Vigar Cage, extremely valuable against everything but Olaf. I actually think that Ducky Getters need to focus on setting this Olaf behind early on, or else they don't have the damage to deal with it later on. Besides that, I think their comp holds strong against everything else. So my eye is really on getting this Olaf behind early in the game.
All right, we are headed into it. Game number 2. Tournament lives on the line for the Ducky Getters. They need a win here or be eliminated. Polestar one more away from continuing in the lower bracket. Let us know in chat who you think has this. Will be Ducky Getters or will be Polestar? Rough Beans in a rough spot as Prismal just hops right onto him. A mid-lane aggression coming out from Polestar. Slow, knocking down those health bars.
Mana flow ban check. Anyone? That's the real dub here. We'll allow for Pulse, of course, to take control of this bot side jungle, and we'll see if Ducky Getters even think about re-entering this bot side. Do want to take note. 3 TPs for Ducky Getters, much like we saw Pulse had the 3 TP advantage last game. And Hoarder, not opting for the Ghost Flash, is opting for the TP. So, again, I really want to see Ducky Getters focus on this Olaf early. Yep. Olaf is only good for damage in the game. I think if Olaf is allowed to function in this game, Ducky Getters are... Their comp does not function. It does not work. But if they send Olaf back to the ancient times in the Stone Age, it's quite good. As Hoarder, actually, he's level 1 Olaf. He's going to try and turn things around, but Ducky Getters, they're here.
I mean, Olaf has a pretty good level 1, considering he attacks faster.
Oh, no.
Lower he is, but not when there's this many members around you, and somehow, some way, Hoarder bites off more than he can chew. Chews down onto it anyway and escapes.
There's no TP, but Prismal's going to try and get Bio off this camp, too. So this Skarner, Skarner's been sent back to the Stone Age. He's been delayed so hard here by Pulse, because look at what Will's been able to get. He already cleared out 2 of Bio's camps in the Raptors, and the Red has been scouted out by Ducky Getters, but still, a lot of damage dealt. Props to Hoarder for how he played that. I know that he's falling behind in this scenario, but we do have a Ducky lane swap coming out. These guys have a really unique read on swaps, some of which I've really appreciated. At the moment, though, I don't love having the Senna lane with the Vigar. I think experience is really important for the Vigar in this matchup. We're not getting any significant harass down on the Azir, so we're just losing out right now as Pulse are able to absorb all 3 lanes. Now, the big thing is, can Hiccup survive this incoming dive and pick up enough experience to get level 2? He will not get level 2, but Prismal's here to try and watch the dive. Will is going to be late.
Oh, no.
Hiccup's in trouble.
Oh, no. She's walking into the wrong bush right now. I mean, it's a level 1 Prismal, but look what's right behind. It's Will. He's happy to flag and drag in. So, for Hiccup, she got the snare. It's a double snare. That's enough. Okay, she will live.
It's enough pressure where Hiccup cannot rotate up and support this dive onto Hoarder. Now it is a 3v2. Never mind, 4v3 on the top side. But Hoarder, I mean, importantly, Hoarder's been able to absorb everything and actually got mostly solo experience as Prismal and Will were not on the wave. This is huge for Hoarder. All this is going on to MF. Going to get a lot of solo XP. Can be valuable if MF gets to be a higher level than some of the people that have to attack her. As Hiccup, down Flash, is dead.
Ooh, yeah. She doesn't have Flash, though. First Blood going over to the Olaf. That's where you don't want it to be, Cubby. We just talked about putting this Olaf down. That's First Blood.
The huge opener for Pulse. Again, Olaf, I really think that Olaf is the piece that breaks this comp. Here's enough Senna going for a longsword, too. So, whoa, Prismal?
Nice flash on the hook shot. Will catch out Enthralled, but it's going to cost Prismal his life. And no, it was not nice at all. I lied to you. It's a double kill for Enthralled.
Good satchel from Enthralled, and that axe from Hoarder ended up picking up tower aggro on the back half. Was not necessary. Could have waited until he walked out of tower range himself to actually throw that one out. Okay, I mean, everything, all the hard work now kind of gone out the window. Hoarder does have the option to TP to the wave of his choice and can also sit on it. But yeah, we're going to get a replay again. Hiccup, no flash. This is an easy pickup as Will has the flash commit. First blood is found, but then in the back half, Ducky Getter's getting 2. I'd much rather be where Enthralled's at right now. So I think Hoarder getting gold is quite good, though, this game. But yeah, this is kind of poor. Really well played from Bio to make sure that Prismal couldn't get the Halo Blades off. And Will was not able to follow through. Yeah. A little tough.
I have to imagine the Demacian standard was on cooldown because he didn't actually go through with the flag and drag.
Yeah. See, if you had Flash there as Hoarder, that's actually maybe a double kill. And then the game's over. But it was
the
a
hook
TP.
shot looked cool, at least, you know?
Yeah, it was a TP. I mean, I think the Pulse were expecting a lane swap and some shenanigans to come out from Ducky Getters. They've done this quite a bit on the Senna in particular, so that's big. I do want to return to the point, though. It looks like Senna is actually going for 80 damage or maybe a Black Cleaver. I'm very surprised to see that longsword, and I'm very surprised to not see the Echoes into Moonstone, the build that we've really been used to. Once you get access to those 2 items, you become rather hard to deal with as Senna on the Rift.
So finally, it took about 5 minutes. Cubby, we have normal lanes.
We do.
Returned to the state.
Damage has been done, though. Look at Olaf items. In a much better spot than Dr. Calculus. Also has more of a... Yeah, more of a wave on Olaf's side. This is frozen, and Bio is nowhere close to breaking this. So Dr. Calculus has really eaten it against Hoarder in the top side, who, again, Hoarder, very, very good laner, and has been able to achieve some decent ranks going to boot camp in Korea. Definitely a player that has actually been on my radar, given where he's been at. So excited to see where Hoarder's career can go. I'm excited to see what he can do in this game.
All right, Shrema Shuffle comes out. Ooh, rough beans picked off, but might get one in return thanks to the cage. So 1 for 1 in the mid lane.
Thematic counter, baby. We're playing the Vygar. It's fine.
We should only do thematic counters from now on.
I love thematic counters, man. We even saw Duckies play like Karma in the Rumble. Again, just like AoE shield, trying to get out of the equalizer, stuff like that. Really good. So I do appreciate some of the reads this team has. I will say, though, this game, just the swap going as south as it did, not being able to dive Porter, I think was very, very bad for Duckies. I do want to give props to Prismal, who was able to break that play. I know Prismal kind of had 2 ints now, but him breaking that play, that potential dive onto Olaf, has Hoarder in such a good position in the top side. Really, really big that Ducky Getters do have this Olaf going. And now you can see the swap. This will help them secure the grubs, which has been secured, but I don't even think Duckies can dive this. Like, what kind of poke, what kind of damage do you actually get down onto Olaf to get him out under tower when he even has access to Ragnarok?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention right now. Level 6.
Yeah.
Crowd control immune. The moment you try and jump onto this man,
are we going?
Keep in mind, the lower health this Olaf gets, the more damage he's able to output. Order
that's pretty
more, but he's not getting damage back in. That's the important part right there. This is pretty much untaxed damage onto Hoarder, so they might be able to find the angle on the dive, and they're going for it. Finally going to use that Ragnarok, but it's far too late, man. Enthralled gets the kill.
Okay, really, really big for Ducky Getters. They were able to get that. Meanwhile, though, Sagewabi, of course, the player of the game from the last series, the sub stepping up for Pulse. MF, pretty far ahead, has been solo laning pretty much this entire time, has access to that level 7, and is deleting this wave. So really big access to a lot of plates already for MF, and if you get that early Bloodthirster, really opens up a bigger window for you to throw your weight around on the Rift. If MF gets BT early, I mean, you just walk up, slap people in the face. They don't win the initial trade, they don't win the later trade, and you don't win this trade as Rough Beans.
It's just that easy for Ariandel, able to scoop him up and throw him over to where Prismal is. Now the flag and drag underneath the tower. Dr. Calculus has to burn flash to get out from the bullet time. Wants to find the kill underneath the tower, but will crumble under the weight of Sagewabi. Now Hoarder grabs his axe, throws another right after Enthralled. Continue the chase, doesn't have the Ragnarok to do it. Play working out for Polestar in the bot lane.
I'd actually love to see a replay of that bot lane dive, because I think there was a way that Dr. Calculus could have outplayed that. I'm not sure if he got his second E off, which would have been a really big deal, as we're going to see Hoarder forced off the top turret. Pulse going to take the first dragon of the game in return, but first brick does go over to Ziggs. The lane swap somewhat successful. The Ziggs is accelerated. Yeah, well, I'm curious, like, Dr. Calculus, if he pops alt a little bit earlier, he might have Fury for the empowered W, because his Fury ends up going to 0. Did burn the Q there, and then alt comes out. Watch out for the E. Did the E connect? Yeah, I don't know where the second E was, because I feel like if he auto-E'd, then he would have had it will, at least, or it would have been close, but wasn't able to do it. I think that he needs to commit onto the turret and just flip while he's dead there on my screen. In that scenario, I think there was a small opportunity for him to maybe turn that one around. Not the case, though. Nectin falls, and map still pretty decent here for Pulse, as Sagewabi actually ended up going for the Collector first. It's a squishier team, but I still don't love this very much.
That's the way the kit works. Slice and dice. You don't get a slice, you don't get to dice, man. Slice and dice. You need both. You can go. For that, it really does hurt Dr. Calculus, especially in this Olaf matchup. We're trying to stifle Olaf, and we're trying to make sure that when we end up in the solo lane against it, not going to be the biggest issue now. Enthralled getting collapsed on as Sagewabi and Will start hovering the area. He burns his teleport right away, man. He was afraid of that engage.
I mean, the reach of Camille and Jarvan is significant, but yeah, that was very respectful from Enthralled. This speaking of reach, this could be turned.
That could be Prismal. Level 5. Out comes the Mega Inferno Bomb, and Rough Beans follows up to take down Prismal.
I don't think Prismal was expecting to see the Ziggs mid, but also I think Prismal should be a little bit more cautious when it comes to attacking this Vygar, as we have seen the cage be rather valuable already. Again, He's going to counter everyone but Olaf on the side of Pulse. So, respect the Vigar, as Vigar actually rushed a Seeker's arm guard in this game. I gotta say, that's new to me. But must be very scared of at least the playmaking that Pulse has, and going to try and use that to at least buy another round of cooldowns from Vigar itself. That's very early in the game. That surprises me.
I get it, though, because Ariandel has been diving this man kind of relentlessly underneath his tower, so he definitely does feel pressured. Now, Void Grub's going to be pulled away. It's Will and Bio standing on opposite ends of the Void Grub pit, but Hoarder's presence means that Bio has to back up.
Yeah, this is Ears in missile mode so far, shocking to say. Yeah, that's it. I mean, Hoarder's just too big. Again, Dr. Calculus has been set really far behind. And Bio's going to have to be that front line. I don't know if Bio is going to be enough for it, but you have some good interactions with the Skarner and these two mages. The ability to drag people into the event horizon could be really big for Duckies too. We might actually see it here.
Yeah, you can see right there. Oh, a little bit of an interaction going on. The stun came out from the... I think that was the Baby Rage Cage that actually got it, but the hook shot buffered right through.
Yeah, that was actually a really good slow from MF, because I do think that Bio could have looked for the ultimate. So bought some space for Camille to get out. Meanwhile, Dr. Calculus did fade down to mid. Help support a potential play, but that gives Hoarder some free time topside. I will say, I don't think Dr. Calculus can really stay up here alone. So, don't mind him looking for plays, but again, the ringleader for this Ducky squad has been really set far behind in this game, making this game rather difficult for Duckies.
But for a second, Will's stepping into the jungle of Ducky Getters. Doesn't realize there's a lot of members around him. There's a lot of ducks that are willing to whack this man down.
And you can see Bio making sure that the J4 is dragged into the sweet spot of the Ziggs ultimate. That is one of the interactions that you're really going to see try and be used by the Duckies this game. Using that Skarner ult, some of the displacement that Skarner brings to make sure that you can drag people into these Ziggs ults, these event horizons. I think it's really the way that Ducky Getters have to control these fights to make it slow, because again, if they don't, they overcommit into Olaf, they will be burned.
Love the backing animation of that particular skin on the Vigar. But off of that back, that means the Hourglass is going to complete it. So yeah,
Jesus.
Rough Beans was very, very afraid of a lot of this pressure that Pulse Harvest going on.
And Seraph.
We'll alleviate it, man.
I mean, if the Seraph comes out,
we're terrified.
Oh my! It's a defensive Vigar. That said, I mean, rounds of spells, being able to buy time and survive the onslaught of Olaf could be big. So we will see what ends up happening here with Rough Beans. We do have the Eclipse completed on this Renekton. I must say, I don't love Eclipse Renekton. I think that part of why we've seen this champion be so dominant this season is just the strength of items like Black Cleaver and Sterak's. So when you go Eclipse, you kind of delay both. That can be hard as Prismal.
Prismal's gone in the cage again. We'll use the ultimatum. It looked cool. That looked cooler, but not cool enough. He just threw a rock at him. He's dead.
I mean, that ult, like, even post-ult from Bio trying to use that to escape the event horizon, how Bio positioned, he landed directly on the event horizon as it expired, so still eats the stun of the cage, and this Camille caught out yet again. As Ifan mentioning, this thematic counter from Vigar, as long as Olaf is not involved in these plays, it does feel like Ducky Getters can at least get themselves back in this game, and that's been exactly what's happening in the last couple of minutes.
It's that Baby Rage Cage. No Olaf. He's the only one who can break out of it and rage true. Camille, however, especially at level 6, I mean, sure, you got the ultimatum to try and get these picks, but you're very, very squishy. Vigar is scaling up. He's having cash.
I'm really interested to see, like, when Hoarder is able to join the fights and what happens when Hoarder does join the fights. Because, again, Hoarder on this Olaf is going to be so big. No pressure like going through the CC that Ziggs and Vigar bring to the table that the rest of Pulse will have so much difficulty with. It's just really up to seeing what happens to Dr. Calculus. He does not realize what's going on here. He's in trouble.
Polestar are all over the place, even with an attempted flash to flag and drag him to his demise. They'll use the Cataclysm as well to lock down this Gator.
And they were trying to, like, protect their blue, or they had an idea that Pulse could have been in the area, but Pulse just completely found every pocket of vision to make sure that Dr. Calculus is looking like he's still going through med school. Duckies, they're gonna be down a man. They have to. Well, actually, they're still getting frisky around this Herald. Rather interesting. Hoarder does have ultimate. Well, they just gonna push him off in 4v5. Really?
That easy. Duckies walk up.
Jesus. Okay.
All-Star, afraid. They'll go ahead and walk away. I mean, that's too frightening, man. There's a bunch of ducks with knives in their hands that are marching towards you.
I would be kind of scared of that, actually.
Also, I took offense to that when you said Dr. Calculus and whole medical thing. You can be a doctor of math.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's true. But the whole thing of, like, still going back to school. Weren't you trying to pursue, a high-level math degree at one point, Deserux?
Yeah. I mean, my end goal is actually get a PhD in mathematics, pure mathematics.
Yeah. Well, you know, I hope I get to call you Dr. Deserux one day then.
Ooh, that rings off so damn well.
It does. I can see why Dr. Calculus ended up, you know, adding the doctor to his name. It's kind of nice.
And it shows that he's an expert in some of these mathematical equations, figuring out just how much health he needs to take away. It's funny, I make that joke, and he's currently 0-2, so it's not really panning out as much as I would like it.
I'm sure that, you know, using the dark arts of calculus, he can find a way to spin that in his own direction. I'm not going to get into there. I only passed Calc 1. So, anyway, moving forward. Porter looks like he's going to clean up that top turret, but meanwhile, Duckies, they have a 4-stack mid, going to try and answer with this mid-outer. And with the Ziggs, you got to believe they're going to be able to do so.
Still Olaf, who's left by himself, collecting solo turret gold at the same time, so this is not coming without its own cost. You also have Ariandel, currently pushing in a lot of side laning coming out from Polestar.
Also, a Hex Drinker from Olaf. Oh boy. And it also looks like it's going to be the full lethality MF, so, I mean, a lot of pressure down on this ultimate for Sage Wabe. I think a lot of importance for Duckies to cancel this. You see a 5-man stack mid. TP from Dr. Calculus. Pulsar exiting towards the top side. We'll see how far we continue the chase. Looks like we're going to return to the lanes. So TP burned, and nice win here for Pulse. I really like how Hoarder was able to get that wave in top and then collapse to help his team take an objective. Mid, really tough to remove against Ziggs and Vigar alone, not to mention in a comp together. At 5-stack, they were able to do so. Could be a big deal for setting up later Dragons and Barons.
And the ebb and flow that they had in that last play as well. They understood the objective of it was to take the tower. It's not the fight after, so they immediately bail. And what does that? What price does that pay? It's Duckies using a teleport for absolutely nothing.
It will be their bot outer in the end, which is okay. Ariandel's going to be careful approaching this, and yeah, he knows it. As Duckies, they have a 5-stack Prismal as well, needs to be a little bit careful. But we'll be wiser to it. Good sweep.
Look at the top lane. Porter's going back to solo farm.
Yeah, they can catch that one, though, at least. As we see Gronk getting back there in time. But, yeah, I mean, again, Porter, the more items he gets, the more he stacks, the bigger he's going to be. And I'd say a Maw against Vigar Ziggs is going to end up feeling pretty good. I think that's a pretty smart buy coming out from Hoarder.
Get those resistances up to make sure that when they use that burst, it's negated. It doesn't do anything to big old Olaf. Speaking of big old Olaf, I do want to take a look at the gold at the moment. While Enthralled has been getting a lot of that tower gold, you know, it's what a Ziggs do, deconstruct the towers. Hoarder's not too far off, who's currently chasing him highest gold on his team.
And again, that is like the scariest member if I'm Duckies in this draft. Again, the one member that can really break through the cages, the minefield that Duckies will be throwing out after this. So I think it was a great draft from Pulse, a great flex pick. Really threw a curveball at the Duckies. As we will see this draft. Okay. We'll see the dragon he picked up. Does go over, and no pressure really able to be grabbed here by the Duckies.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all.
I mean, again, like, Hoarder doesn't even have to join for that. I really appreciate how disciplined Hoarder has been. I feel like in this tournament, we've seen a lot of top laners, like, they feel pressured, the TP to the play, just make sure they're involved. And to be fair, I mean, in some games, if you're not there, that can be the big turning point, having your team face a 4v5 without you. But again, going into this draft, talk about Olaf. He is only as good as the resources that he has on him. If he gets fed, if he gets ahead, he can shred the comp of Ducky Getters. And I really appreciate that Hoarder, he has stayed disciplined. He's played for himself. The TP's every move that he's made has been to make sure that the Olaf is the one who is scaling. So I do feel like that's been very important in this game, and I want to praise Hoarder for some of his discipline there. Something that I haven't seen out of even our NACL teams, who I was going through my VOD review of Fear versus Dragonsteel. like Zamuda was coming in after his Jax game, was like, dude, I had PTSD, man. Like I could not play this side lane at all. He's like, I was terrified. It's like, what happened in scrims to you, man?
Yeah, it's good to see our younger players actually having this level of confidence and composure to handle situations like this. Patience more than anything else, and that patience does pay off because that second item is going to be completed, that Maw that we were talking about. Shelly going to hit the Rift as well as the Duckies look to make their move.
Yeah, I mean, Shelly plus Zig is pretty much equals turret. And we're not going to see a defense here from Pulse. They're going to play away from this to try and take away the upcoming Rift charge, as that will find the first turret. But the answer from Pulse is to play out 2 lanes. Ariandel getting free time. The Nashor's Tooth, Azir going to shred through the bot inner turret. And Hoarder gets the wave all the way in on the top side and will be out in time. Very well played by Pulse.
Ariandel, they keep maintaining this gold lead, and now putting up the Azir turret with the passive. This means you're going to have constant pressure down here in the bottom lane. All the meanwhile, a lot of members of Duckies, Polestar, kind of hovering around this top side. Ariandel side laning. So far, it's coming to the objective.
Do you want to give a shout out to Rough Beans here? Doesn't look like it's going to be a Seraphs. Just looks like it's going to be Deathcap base, especially on the Vygar. You get to just take up even more AP on top of the absurd amount of AP that you stack up with your passive. You like that.
About 200 stacks so far, man.
Yeah, and then also a Banshees on Ariandel. I think Banshees is just really high value this game. So actually, I really appreciate some builds that our younger players are going. I think it's really smart given game state and what is a very awkward, unstandard game, thanks to the draft we have from Duckies.
Look how dark this jungle is for the Duckies. You can tell right now, playing with a lot of vision. It's going to be Polestar.
They caught it.
And Duckies just go straight for the engage. They don't fear the dark, man. They find the shutdown in the Sagewabe.
And that's where you have to get at Pulse. They aren't going to group up. They're going to play sides. You see Hoarder still pushing through the bot lane. It's going to pressure Duckies to start this Baron. I got to say, their Baron stinks. You don't have a traditional marksman. You don't have actual Baron damage in this one. So this is going to take a while. Hoarder, though, it will pull his TP, and Ariandel's here. We'll see if Duckies are able to turn.
All right, this is the moment you've been waiting for. You want Hoarder to show up in the team fight like this. Has he farmed enough? Has he brought enough to the party? Will standing on one end is looking for the steal. You have Polestar members currently all around.
Hoarder's not spotted yet.
There's a lot of damage that's coming out from the Baron itself as they slow this down. Will still looking for that angle, but here comes Hoarder. He's going after it. Thrall just decimates him, slams that axe on top of his head, looks over towards Hiccup, who gets some fire and gets some damage in. Hoarder just throws an axe like he doesn't care. Now the hook shot comes in, secure the jungler, and Polestar take the team fight. They'll take the Baron.
And the young top laner of Pulse showing some veterancy, realizing that he was hidden in fog. Prismal spotted out the ward, but the entire time, Hoarder was sitting on a control ward, waiting for his moment. And the moment that he picked with Prismal and Pulse was perfect.
That was beautiful right there. We wanted to see just how much work this Olaf is going to do. We've been waiting for that big 5v5 moment where Hoarder can pop off, and that is the way you do it. Pounce onto Enthralled, take him out, take the fight.
And I just love the use of this flex pick, too. Like, putting the Camille bot, yes, we've seen Prismal. I mean, he had struggles a little bit in this game, but still, props to Prismal. He saved that top lane for Hoarder level 1. Olaf did not get dove. He absorbed everything pretty much solo to give him a good start. Now, look at this Olaf's build. Maw into Force of Nature with a Stride Breaker. The amount of stick you're going to have and the lack of physical damage, given how far behind this Renekton is, it doesn't exist. Hoarder is going to be able to just shred Ducky Getters, run through their primary damage dealers like it's nothing. Hoarder's had a fantastic game this time around. Really set up by Prismal level 1, and given the flex of the Camille, really sound for Pulse.
A lot of that coming from the draft. We thought that Camille was going top, then psych! It's Hoarder taking Olaf in the top lane.
I will say,
man,
I prefer Spirit Visage. I'll nitpick a little bit for Hoarder. The Visage on Olaf's really good, given the health regain you get, and then W just getting more shields. But hey, the move speed on Force of Nature, you can go Visage next too, and I'd still think it's good.
That's really what it is. I can imagine he just wants as much move speed as possible to hunt people down. Like, why not? Just go for it. Now Polestar, defense in the mid lane. They're the ones that have the Baron buff, and they're the ones who are currently ahead of the play, but still going for the dive nonetheless. Is going to be Duckies. They will get the kill on the Sagiwabe.
Look at Will.
Begin to bail out. Now here comes
Hoarder's
the
duel.
teleport.
Hoarder's duel.
Now Hoarder doesn't have his ultimate. This is going to be a tough one for him to get through. The baby rage cage locks him down, but all that magic resist doesn't give a damn about your magic damage. Hoarder double kill. This Viking is insane.
I cannot blame Duckies for going for this. They have to fight around Olaf's all-timer, but it doesn't work. A triple kill to Hoarder's Olaf. He's been massive all game. Cashes it in there, and Pulse looking in to cash this series at a 2-0.
Going for the end. Stepping into the base, dismantling it like they own the place. Baron-powered minions stepping up onto the Nexus. All that's left is Bio Hiccup finally going to respawn. Nexus Tower number 1 goes down. And I'll tell you right now, Polestar don't give a duck. They're able to take the win. They're able to take the series in a 2-0.
Great showing from Pulse, and frankly, 2 upsets today from our OQ teams. Lotus and Pulse were the teams that lost in the first round. They went back to the drawing board, took advantage of the bonus tape they got on the other 2 OQ teams that faced our NACL teams and came out victorious today. Again, I love seeing Pulse. We talk so much about Ducky Getters, and rightfully so, about some of their unique takes on draft. To see Pulse flex that Camille bot, play the Olaf into the comp where Olaf is just Thanos. We really saw it in that last fight. Very worth it for Pulse. Really well played from them, and congrats on moving on.
Yeah, big congratulations. Let's go ahead and pull up a replay of some of the closing moments of that fight. Man, when it comes to this fight in particular, keep a close eye on Hoarder, who does not have his ultimate.
I mean, again, like Duckies, they find Sagiwabe alone. And now you have a fight where Hoarder doesn't have all. That's not terrible, given the state that you were in. They find the full combo. But I got to say, Enthralled, through his ult, it was high value onto the majority of members, but it wasn't onto Hoarder. And when this Olaf, he was allowed to do anything. There's just no DPS to get through him. You stack up the MR. There's nothing you can do. And Hoarder was the player of the game this time around. Really, really good play from him. And honorary mention to Prismal again. I think he really saved the game where him and Will were at. Level 1, level 3, making sure that Hoarder was able to soak that first wave. That was, for me, the big difference maker in making sure this Olaf was able to take off. And Hoarder cashed it in.
Yeah, as we pull up the post-game breakdown presented by the Real Cost, look at all that damage that Olaf did. And again, a lot of that itemization was the magic resist, right? Like, what is a Vygar going to do? What is a Ziggs going to do when you have a Force of Nature and Maw and you're accelerated so heavily into this game? It meant Hoarder was absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, great performance from him. Definitely a player that I have my eye on moving forward. Excited to see more tape for him. And just want to give an honorary shout out to Ducky Getters. Again, 4 members that didn't participate in OQs before this to make it to this tournament's insane. I really have my eyes on a lot of these players as we go into this upcoming offseason. Excited to see what they can do in some of the combines and tryouts. And I think really highly of Dr. Calculus, Bio, and some of the reads that this team had throughout the season. I really hope that other teams look at this team, look at some of the comps, the styles that they're playing, and learn from them. Because especially in a full Fearless format, you're going to be forced to play other strats other ways, and Ducky Getters proved that you can win playing that way. So shout out to them on being a really fun team to follow throughout this OQ.
One more shout out to Enthralled as well. I know you called out Bio and Calculus, but Enthralled looked fantastic, and especially that first game popping off on the Zeri. But
thanks from Rough Beans, a lot of good stuff. Hiccup as well, playing the Enchantresses. A lot of it worked for this team, and it was really fun to see them do well.
Yeah, but we do bid them farewell now. And I really do hope we get to see some of these names either in future tournaments, future promotions, or even in the NACL proper itself. But off of that note, we are going to take a moment to throw it over to short break. When we return, we will have Sabe Wabe on the other side for an interview. We'll be right back.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Dermaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost. Welcome back, everyone, to the NACL Promotions. I am joined by Sabe Wabe from Polestar. How you doing, brother, after that win?
Doing good.
All right. Well, it's still fresh in the mind. I do want to start getting into the games first and foremost, especially that Game 2 draft. Talk to me about some of the switch-ups that you guys had, because at first we thought it was going to be Camille in the top lane, then suddenly you flexed it out with Hoarder taking the top. How did that draft go down?
We saw the Camille as an opportunity to play at flex, just because we knew that Camille top would most likely be what they thought they would, or we would play. But then we could play at flex, so we were able to take advantage of that and play for a better pick on top side.
All right, so far in the promotion tournament, I mean, this is my first time personally seeing you, and I've been pretty impressed by some of your play, especially in that Ezreal game. You kind of snuck in with how many kills you were getting. So I want to ask, so far in the promotion tournament, how are you feeling about your own play?
So far I'm feeling really, really good about it. I'm not really nervous at all for it. I'm just coming into every game, just giving my all, doing my best, and following through with the team and trusting the team.
No nerves whatsoever? Is it just like you come in completely zen, no issues?
I just come in and I'm just doing my best to trust my own play, know that I can do well instead of doubting myself, and trusting in the team to just help me out and for me to help them out, play my role in the team.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the summer. Coming into the qualifiers and everything, what were your expectations? And then what are your personal goals as you started realizing that NACL and getting into the promotions might be a reality?
For the summer, I definitely wanted to join Pulse and just keep an eye out on like the games, the scrims and whatnot, do my best to learn and improve my macro, and really just keep an eye out on the team as a sub. And when I got brought in, I was excited and also nervous just because I had really big shoes to fill in coming in for Azog.
So you do get a little nervous there, eh?
A little nervous, yeah. But now that we are playing in the promo tourney, I'm definitely getting a lot more confident in my own play and ready for it.
That's awesome, man. And how about the vibes with your team? Playing with the rest of the group, Arian, Dell, Will, Hoarder, Prismal. There is some pretty good experience on the squad. How you been vibing with your teammates?
I definitely was a bit intimidated at first just because I'm basically pretty new to competitive, whereas the others have a lot more experience than me. And coming into the first couple of scrims, I was just doing my best to not really mess up the vibe, not really mess up the comms. And I've been adapting to it really well, and I am able to really play my part in the team. Yeah.
It's showing, man. Off of that note, I'm gonna start wrapping up this interview, so I want to give the floor to you. Is there any shout outs you'd like to give? Players, staff, family? Floor is yours.
I want to give a shout out to Polestar for letting me get the opportunity. Obviously, the players on the team, they have helped me grow, and it's a pleasure joining them and playing with them. The staff as well, obviously, they have helped me grow. I want to shout out to my family for supporting me in this, and friends who are watching and supporting me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's great to see your face for the first time. It's great to see new faces here. I want to thank you for joining us for this interview and having such a phenomenal performance. I'm hoping to see more of you, man, but thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to pull Cubby right back in onto the desk. I've seen him, man. A pretty level head on his shoulders.
Yeah, humble king, honestly. And hey, props to Pulse. Again, both of these OQ teams that won today, they dropped in round one. So to bounce back, continue on to this tournament, really shows some of the grit these guys have, especially Pulse incorporating Sage Wagbe into that roster. Played really well today, and we'll have to see what ends up happening as we move forward. Because we're going to have, looks like we got a matchup between Pulse and Lotus coming up next, which will be exciting. But of course, CCG versus AoE tomorrow to determine the first team that, in their case, will be returning to NACL.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of exciting matches that are going on, especially to wrap up things. heading into the next year of NACL. We will have one guaranteed returning team. So, you know, the CCG AOE is for a spot into the NACL, so you're not going to want to miss that. And if they do fall, that means they fall into the lower bracket where we might see more action underway for another chance for those teams to return. There's also a chance we just might end up getting more new faces because a lot of the players we've seen here today, whether it be with Pulse and Sage Wabe, like we just had the interview with, or even with Lotus and seeing Mixture and Sushi. A lot of fun new faces, a lot of new talent. It gets me excited for the future.
Really glad we got to talk to the two of them today as well, and excited to see what happens moving forward. These two teams, I mean, one of them is going to have the opportunity to play that best of 5 against CCG or AOE to make it to NACL, so we'll see if they have the grit to pull it off.
With that note, we are going to start wrapping up here because it's been a fun day, it's been an action-packed day, and personally, I just want the day to move on so we can get into more NACL because we got more tomorrow. We got more the day after. We got action, baby. And, you know, it's going to be where it's at. We're going to see who be able to break in to the NACL off of that. Go ahead.
Someone like about 45 VODs behind between LCS, NACL, and a promotion tournament. Yeah, it's kind of hectic this week, but hey, before we go,
I want things to slow down, man.
Yeah, I mean, no slowing down, but hey, before we go, I do want to give a shout out to Rally Cry in particular. It's my last broadcast with them on the year. They've been fantastic partners behind the scenes. We got a whole production crew, a lot of people that, you know, some are really consistent mainstay members, some are subs. Regardless, they've always really did a great job of making it easy on us and making the broadcast great for you. So thanks so much for this year, everyone who's been tuning in between promotion tournament and NACL. I'll see you for finals, but just wanted to give a special shout out to our production team that has been the real MVPs behind us all year.
Caddy, Kai, Hippie B, Cynthia, Emery, so many people have worked behind the scenes. Magnetic, who's subbed in a few times on the producer role. They make this all capable. And off that note, also a thank you to our players who give us a league to cover in the first place. Thank you to you, the viewers, for tuning in, watching our beautiful faces. For the broadcast, my name is Eric Desrex Beltran. Joining me, of course, was Matthew Cubby Samuelson. Be sure to tune in tomorrow because it's time for best of 5s. One team gets locked into the NACL. You're not going to want to miss it.